Good morning. Sir Keir Starmer arrives in Washington for crunch talks with Donald Trump.
On the agenda, impending tariffs, a Western alliance in jeopardy, and Vladimir Putin.
But it all comes as the Prime Minister has downplayed the growing tension between the two sides, insisting he can trust the Trump.
Meanwhile, the US President says Kyiv will have to make concessions when it comes to NATO membership.
NATO you can forget about. I think that's probably the reason the whole thing started.
The Foreign Secretary David Lammy claims the Chagos deal is off if President Trump rejects the agreement. Well, here's what Conservative heavyweight Robert Jenrick had to say.
If our own leaders are so weak and feckless that they want to do this, then yes, I would love to have, President Trump to step in and end this farce. But it shouldn't have to come to that, should it?
No.
A royal away day. Prince William and Princess Catherine try their hand at making Welsh cakes during a visit to the country in honour of St David's Day on Saturday.
Gary Lineker hits out at the BBC after it removed a documentary deemed to be pro-Hamas.
As experts warn Labour's private school tax is threatening British rugby, we're asking this morning, is it killing our traditions?
We're going to be joined later by the winners of the prestigious National Fish and Chip Awards.
Good morning, and it was a huge night of Premier League action, but did we finally see the end of the title race? Liverpool moved 13 points clear at the top with victory over Newcastle. There were wins too for Manchester City and Manchester United.
Hello there, good morning. A fine, dry and settled day ahead. Plenty of sunshine. There were a few showers in places. To find out where, stay tuned and I'll be here with all the details.
It's just gone 6 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
I'm Ellie Costello and this is GB News Breakfast. We're talking about the small joys in life this morning, the small wins that make us feel happy.
Seeing you first thing in the morning.
Seeing you first thing brings me joy, as does it when I see you, Aidan.
Yes, I know.
But there are lots of joys in life, and this is a study in the Daily Mail this morning. Apparently, Britain's experienced 15 small wins every single week.
Oh, drinking this tea is one of them.
The first sip of a cup of tea is a small joy.
Yeah.
But also on this list is being unexpectedly cooked a meal. That's a nice feeling. The sun coming out when you're on a walk. Ordering a takeaway and it arrives quickly. Finding money in an old purse, that's a lovely feeling. Finding cash is great.
Yes, it is.
Stunning. And when you choose the fastest queue in the shop or when you drive into a car park and there's a space right there.
Yeah, that's good.
All of those are good examples, I
But
think.
I also think that life is just, even your day can be just a selection of small wins and small defeats, if you like. I remember crashing my car once a few years ago. It wasn't a serious crash, it wasn't really bad, but then I had I think I had a tax rebate later in the day, so you sort of think it balances it out.
Oh, it does. That's a good way of thinking
Tax
of it.
rebate, that's a big win.
That is a big win.
That is a big win.
And I'll say a car crash is a big defeat.
Yeah, I know.
It's the old thing, isn't it, of saying you've got to slow down, smell the flowers.
My mum says that all the time and I'm very bad at that.
It's one of the lovely things when you have a little walk through the countryside and you hear the birds and all that. I think, that's lovely. It's good for the soul.
Freshly cut grass, I quite like.
That's a good one.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
If you actually think about it, there's loads, isn't it? I love getting into freshly cleaned sheets.
Yeah.
You know when you've made the bed and you get into bed and you're like, oh, that's so nice.
What about, I'll tell you a good one, when I've forgotten I've left the blanket on, the electric blanket on.
You get
in
toasted.
cold. Yeah, and I get inside, that's really nice. I wasn't expecting that.
Nice.
Winning the lottery.
I suggest that's probably a big
nice
win.
Small thing. Now, I only mention that because I think it's like 140 million tomorrow.
Oh, not that you're checking.
And I have been dreaming about it. On the drive down this morning, actually, I was thinking, what would I do? Well, would we sell the house? Would we buy another house?
I think you would buy another house, would you not?
Would I stay working? Would I? It was all that
You
sort
better
of thing
stay
this
working.
morning.
It's going to change your life a bit, isn't it? 140 million
It's
quid.
stupid, though, isn't it? Because every time I get a lottery ticket, I think, what would I do when I win? What am I going to do with the money?
You've got to manifest, yeah. You've got to say when I win.
But that's ridiculous, because I never do.
I know.
Do you do it every week?
No,
No.
it's just occasionally.
Only when he likes the sound of the
Yeah,
jackpot.
yeah.
So 140 would do it for
It's
Stephen.
got to be over 100 million.
Yeah, over 100 million is worth his time. Well, let us know what you do if you won 140 million. And also, please share your small joys in life. What are the things that make you happy? What are the things that boost your mood? It's nice, isn't it? With everything going on in the world, to have a little think. Take pause and think about the things that make us happy. GBnews.com/you'll-say.
Now, 5 minutes past 6, the Prime Minister has flown 3,000 miles across the Atlantic for his meeting with President Trump today.
Well, speaking to reporters, he dismissed growing tensions between the US and Europe and insists the special relationship must go from strength to strength.
Well, our political editor, Christopher Hope, has the latest from Washington.
Sir Keir Starmer touched down in Washington, D.C. last night for what will be today the most consequential meeting of his 7 months as Prime Minister. He meets with Donald Trump, of course, in the Oval Office, a key meeting with the fate of Ukraine hanging in the balance and the future of any peace deal which might be agreed between Ukraine and Russia. On the flight over, Sir Keir Starmer told us in no uncertain terms that it was vital Donald Trump agreed to underwrite any security deal after any peace deal is signed with Russia, between Russia and Ukraine. He made clear the security guarantee was important in case Putin came again after any peace deal was signed. And he said the UK was looking at putting in UK troops to help enforce that peace deal. To get ready for that commitment, Sir Keir Starmer has taken a major step for a Labour Prime Minister. He's cut foreign aid budget to spend on defence. But all hangs in a balance here in Washington, D.C. Will Trump agree to a European security pact to ensure that peace in Ukraine?
Well, as Christopher mentioned, it's expected Sir Keir will push the president to provide a backstop, a US backstop against further Russian aggression in Ukraine. The problem with that? Well, Trump isn't sold.
I'm not going to make security guarantees beyond very much. We're going to have Europe do that because it's in, we're talking about Europe as the next door neighbor. The European Union's it was formed in order to screw the United States. I mean, look, let's be honest. The European Union was formed in order to screw the United States. That's the purpose of it. And they've done a good job of it, but now I'm president.
What concessions would you like to see? What concessions would you like to see?
Oh, I don't want to tell right now, but I can tell you that NATO you can forget about. I think that's probably the reason the whole thing started.
Well, joining us in the studio this morning is political commentator Theo Usherwood. Good to see you this morning,
Very good to see you.
Theo. And those comments just highlight the scale of the challenge that is facing Sir Keir Starmer today in Washington.
Very much so. Keir Starmer has somehow got to persuade the president that actually it's in America's interest to support Europe. But as you heard from President Trump there at his cabinet, I'm not going to make security guarantees beyond very much. We're going to have Europe do that. So he's already been rebuffed, and that was even before Keir Starmer's plane landed ahead of today's crucial meeting.
And yet, I mean, I don't know how we balance it out, because there is an argument to say, well, fair enough.
Yeah.
As Trump says, this is all on our doorstep.
Yes.
We've got to sort it out. But also, he's also the man who's saying, well, you need to sort out, increase your security budgets, and we all seem to be doing that.
Well, yes, there's a fly in the ointment.
What are we going to do with Chagos?
Yeah.
That seems to be in his hands. So he seems to still have a lot of control.
Yes, and so Keir Starmer, obviously they had to rush out this announcement on Tuesday about increasing defence spending to 2.5% of GDP by 2027. Two issues with that, and this was as it came out in the House of Commons yesterday and subsequently. The actual money in terms of the actual uplift, if you take into account inflation, is only £6 billion, not £13.4 billion. The other issue is this Chagos Islands deal. Now, David Lammy yesterday was quite astute, and he said, we're going to let Donald Trump make the final decision. Trump has the veto. That's handing power. It's saying to the US president, you can have the final say. And that's smart politics. It's sensible politics going into this crucial summit. But then, of course, if Donald Trump were to accept this deal, were to give it the green light, where is the money going to come from for the Chagos, to pay Mauritius to rent the Chagos Islands back? And yesterday at PMQs, the Prime Minister was very clear that, well, I mean, he wasn't very clear, but it seemed to be that the money was going to come from this uplift in the defence budget. Donald Trump doesn't want that money spent on the Chagos Islands deal. He wants that money spent on Europe defending its own borders, and that's the problem.
The Chagos Island deal then is dead in the water, isn't it? Because we already know that Trump is not a fan of.
Well, we know that Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, is, and yes, you're quite right to say this, the president has, and those around him have said they're not particularly have indicated that they're not going to support the deal. But let Trump decide whether he's going to make that decision. We would expect that decision to come in the next 24 hours during this meeting. But were he to approve it, what Trump is not going to want to hear from Keir Starmer is this prevarication around this money that Trump wants Europe and the UK to be spending on more military to defend its borders, so that we're not constantly relying on the United States. He wants that money spent in Europe. He doesn't want it spent just supporting this Chagos Islands.
But no, but then that's the other thing as well. Increasing defence spending is one thing, because we know it's all necessary. If that increase in defence spending is doing nothing more than maintaining the status quo, what's the point?
Precisely that, and that's that's going to be at the forefront of the president's mind. He is going to want this money spent on Europe, and he doesn't want just the UK to be spending to the uplift in the defence budgets. He wants it right across Europe. And if Keir Starmer thinks that he can do some sort of sleight of hand when it comes to the way we spend our money here in the UK, the president will have had his team watching Prime Minister's questions. They would have heard what the Prime Minister said. They've got reports back about what the Prime Minister's spokesman said or didn't say to journalists after PMQs. They are fully appraised, make no mistake about it, about the spending situation. And what they don't want to happen is they don't want simply for Keir Starmer to make this grand gesture, and actually when you get into the detail and you get into the numbers behind it, it turns out to be not very much.
We had President Macron's visit to Washington on Monday. So Keir Starmer is obviously following that. I mean, many would say he set the bar quite high in terms of the clear rapport between Macron and Trump, the fist bumping, the big handshakes and the cuddles in the White House. What does Sir Keir Starmer have in his arsenal to get close to Trump, to get the very best out of Trump on this visit? Because he doesn't have that tactile. Clearly those two have.
You're quite right to pick up on this, Ellie. There is they're politically they're polar opposites, and by their personalities they are completely the opposite. You've got a businessman from New York with all of the bravado and braggadocio of Donald Trump, and then a lawyer from North London with all the sternness and the austere manner of Keir Starmer. And they are two different people. And Emmanuel Macron, I know many of your listeners won't like Emmanuel Macron, but he does have that sort of slightly Napoleonic, bravado to lean across and hold the president's arm and say, "To be frank, Mr. President." He's got that personality and he's got that chutzpah to do that, and I'm not sure that Keir Starmer has that, and I think that's going to be a real problem, because you can see this press, you can see that the press conference, or maybe that where they do I think they call it a gaggle of reporters, a spray, when the reporters come into the room and they meet they'll see Donald Trump and Keir Starmer sat there, and Donald Trump's going to say something to needle Keir Starmer, and what does Keir Starmer do at that point? Does he sort of recoil and just sort of try and wish he wasn't there, or does he actually say, "No, sorry, Mr. President, you're wrong on that particular detail"? And that's what we're all looking out for today.
He's going to have to. He's going to have to.
Well, I think many of your listeners would quite like him to. I think he's not just representing the Labour government. He's not just representing the Labour Party. He's representing the country. He's there for all of us. He's representing Britain. And I think everybody will be looking on and saying, well, let's see. This is the biggest day of his career, if not his life, and it's going to be super interesting to follow throughout the day.
All right.
Fascinated.
Theo, thank you. Let's talk to Chair of Republican Overseas UK, Greg Swenson. Morning, Greg.
Good morning.
Is all the power here in Trump's hands for this meeting?
It looks that way, but it doesn't necessarily have to end that way. And as Theo pointed out, this is an opportunity for Keir Starmer to develop a relationship. And as we've discussed on your show before, President Trump really likes the UK. That's the best thing that Keir Starmer has going for him right now. And I think maybe breaking the ice with an offer, the invitation from the King for a state visit will also play to Starmer's favor in the sense that, it's a positive moment for President Trump to hear that.
And I guess he's also got the special relationship to fall back on. But, I mean, does Trump consider it to be a special relationship?
I think he does. I mean, only because it's the UK. I don't think he would give that kind of credit or that kind of, elevation to a lot of countries. He knows that the U.S. is the biggest and most powerful country in the world. He gets that. But he does have this attachment or this relationship with the UK. He came here twice during his first term, had a state visit on the second trip, and so he's got a real connection. He likes the King. He likes Prince William. He has a real fondness for the UK. Now that might not matter when it comes to dollars and cents and military spending and defense and security. Maybe he's going to look past that, that fondness. But I think Keir Starmer's got a great opportunity today.
What about this US backstop? Because, I mean, that's been crucial in everything Keir Starmer's been saying about getting in there and having, in effect, a peacekeeping force, all the rest of it. He's saying, well, right, Europe will do this,
right,
but there needs to be a US backstop as an extra layer of security.
Yeah, and I think he'd be better off not pushing that and not demanding detail, because they're not going to get into detail, I don't think, anyway. And I think he'd be better off just knowing that the US backstop is there. But if you push it and you make it a requirement, you demand sort of detailed support, I think that's a mistake. Of course the US is going to be there, especially with air defense and intelligence. That the US has to do what the other NATO forces, what the Europeans can't do. So it has to be, if it's boots on the ground, that's going to be from the European allies. If it's air support and sophisticated systems, all of that will be provided by the U.S., but I don't think he gets into the detail of that or makes it part of a deal.
No, but what's interesting, when it was mentioned in that news conference, I mean, the one thing he sort of said, well, NATO's finished. We're done. We're done with NATO.
Right.
Look, and he said this in his first term as well. But is that looking like a reality?
It's provocative. He's doing that because he likes to throw a grenade in the room. He likes to be provocative. He likes to be he likes to be disruptive. And if that means that will force or encourage NATO or the European countries to spend more on defense, to upgrade, which they desperately need to do. And we all know that this 2% minimum, yes, it's being met by 21 of the countries now. It was only 4, I believe, when Trump started in 2017. It's still completely inadequate. It has to be something more significant. Whether that's 3 or 4% is debatable. And the U.S., by the way, in the Biden years, cut defense spending 3% a year in real terms, 3 years in a row. I mean, so that should be a real worry for the rest of NATO. The U.S. is still 50% of NATO defense spending, and that's significantly lower than, the contributions from the U.S. are lower than they were 3 years ago. I think you'll see much more spending or support from Trump generally on defense spending. You saw it in his first term, but that should be something, I mean, that's something that's overlooked a lot in the complaints from the European countries. But I do think both the U.S. and the other NATO countries have to increase defense and security spending. There's no doubt about it.
So Keir Starmer was quite careful with his words on the plane to Washington earlier, and he's talking about being a bridge between Europe and the US. Like, he doesn't need to make a choice, like he can be a friend to all.
Sure.
Do you think that is the case, or do you think Trump will want him to choose and he would see the UK as its own independent entity?
Yeah, I think President Trump would prefer the latter. But on the other hand, Keir has a point. Like, this could be a great opportunity for him to be the bridge, both economically as well as from a defense perspective. And so I think, he should take this as an opportunity to upgrade the UK. And I do think that the president would like that. Because, again, he has a fondness for the UK, not the EU. He doesn't like multilateral organizations. President Biden, on the other hand, favored the EU on many occasions, always leaned toward Ireland and the rest of the EU at the expense of the UK. So in spite of their political differences, and as Theo pointed out, their personality differences, this is a chance for Keir Starmer, because the president prefers the UK as an independent country. He loved Brexit, as opposed to Obama and Biden, who were very much anti-Brexit. So this is a chance for him, even though Keir wasn't exactly a Brexiteer. But I think, again, it's a great opportunity because President Trump likes the UK, and he especially likes the UK as an independent country.
OK. Greg, thank you. We're going to talk to Greg and Theo a little bit later on as well. But it's interesting, the idea that perhaps Keir Starmer won't be coming home with egg on his face, which was perhaps the sort of expectation. Maybe this can be resolved, this can be saved in a way which is going to end up being good for the states and good for us.
Well, let us know what you think. It's a diplomatic tightrope that Keir Starmer is going to be walking. Let us know what you think could happen in this meeting in Washington today. gbnews.com/yours say. Now, at 90 minutes past 6, let's take a look at some other stories coming into the newsroom this morning.
Well, the Metropolitan Police has revealed a new charter for stop and search powers to try to increase transparency. According to the force, over 8,000 Londoners from all ethnic backgrounds helped create the document. Stop and search has often been considered contentious because of issues with racial disparity.
Gary Lineker has joined more than 500 other media professionals to hit out at the BBC after it removed a documentary deemed to be pro-Hamas. In an open letter, the signatories criticised the decision, dubbing it politically motivated censorship. Last week, the corporation apologised after it emerged one of the child protagonists in the documentary was found to be the son of a Hamas leader.
Actress from Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Gossip Girl, Michelle Trachtenberg, has died at the age of 39. She was found dead at her home in New York after officers responded to a 911 call. Police have opened an investigation but say criminality is not suspected.
Now it's time for your weather with Honor.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. A fine and settled day ahead. Lots of dry weather, lots of sunny spells, though we can't rule out a few occasional coastal showers, particularly around North Sea coasts. So East Anglia, for example, may see a slightly cloudier day on offer. Some showers moving through here too, and a little bit breezy at times. And across the northwest, can't rule out a few showers moving through here as well. The odd one may be a little bit heavy with some hail and thunder, but for the majority of the country, a dry day on offer, bright and even some sunshine poking through at times too, and highs of around 10, possibly 11 Celsius across the south, so feeling pleasant where you do catch the sunnier spells. As we head through into the evening across Scotland, still a few showers moving through here. Still, once again, could be a little bit heavy, perhaps even bringing the odd sprinkling of snow across the Scottish Highlands. A few showers just clipping coasts of Northern Ireland too, but elsewhere, northern parts of England should see a dry end to the day, and fairly similar across Wales, central parts of England and parts of the south. A dry end to the day, perhaps still some cloud lingering across East Anglia with the odd shower moving through here too. But then through into the overnight period with high pressure building, so that's going to ease away any showers. That's away from the northwest though, where they might continue for a time. But under clear skies, that means temperatures are soon going to dip away, and it's likely that we'll actually see quite a widespread frost by Friday morning, the last day of meteorological winter, and even towns and cities just about above freezing, but many rural spots likely to see quite a chilly start to the day with that patchy frost, possibly even some fog patches to start the day too. Things will eventually warm up and any fog will clear, and once again another dry day on offer, much brighter across parts of the southeast where we'll see a little bit of the cloud today. Lots of dry weather, lots of sunshine. That sunshine turning hazier though across the northwest as we see an ex-frontal system moving through. Once again highs of around 10 to 11 Celsius, so once again feeling pleasant in the sunshine.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Still to come, Welsh cake for the Waleses in Wales.
Yes, your morning tongue twister. We'll tell you more next.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
I'm here in M. Manzi's, which is now the oldest surviving pie and eel shop in London. It's been open since 1892, and as you said in the intro there, it's really sort of a dying breed. One of the sister sites of this shop, the distant relative, owned one of their own other shops in Deptford, and that closed on Saturday for the very last time. That had been open for over 100 years. So you clearly see that there's a declining, not necessarily a declining interest, that's the wrong way of putting it, but it's nowhere near as prevalent as it used to be. This was a staple of the East End, and it's now gone from about 300 shops in the Victorian times to under 40 now, and it's declining further and further. Now, also, a couple of months ago, I was in Basildon talking about a similar story with Richard Holden, trying to create a protected status for pie and mash to prevent sort of copycats from stealing the recipe and making it less authentic. So that is ongoing. There's clearly interest in it, and tourists enjoy coming in here. Hopefully, I'll get one of my own pies shortly and have another taste. But it would be a shame to see this go. It's not just about the pie and the taste and the flavour, which is fantastic. It's also about history and community. A lot of people come in here as regulars, so we're just shining a light on a crucial part of London's historic economy. It's a bit of good fun, and it certainly tastes very good as well. Demographics have changed, yeah, and actually a lot of the ownership, the people who would run these shops traditionally over the last few decades are moving out towards the west, they're moving towards Kent, they're moving towards Sussex. So there are demographic changes, and no doubt that is influencing it as well. And as I say, it's important to do stories like this just to remind people of London's history and why it's important to support these local businesses.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back. Now, the Prince and Princess of Wales made their first joint trip to Wales since Catherine's cancer battle. They are, of course, celebrating St David's Day. It's coming up on Saturday.
Where did they go?
Pontypridd.
Oh, very good. Very nice.
In South Wales.
Now, despite a delayed train due to flooding, the future King and Queen had time to make Welsh cakes and visit victims of flooding in the area.
Well, our royal correspondent, Cameron Walker, has more.
Do you guys like a Welsh cake? Join us. We just made them.
Turning up the heat in the kitchen as the Prince and Princess of Wales went head-to-head, making sweet treats for locals in Pontypridd, perhaps one more competitive than the other.
You've been practicing at home? Googling how to make Welsh cakes. You've been watching YouTube videos.
It was a wet and soggy start for the Prince and Princess of Wales, delayed by 90 minutes due to a flooded train track.
Like my journey down.
The irony of us being stuck on a train flooded. We're going to visit there. It wasn't miss on us.
As Prince William just hinted, they wanted to visit an area affected by recent flooding, caused by storms Bert and Dara.
When I sort of looked in the window, I could see all my stuff floating around. I had to get in here.
Businesses were devastated, many already uninsurable due to previous flooding. William asked them what solutions were needed.
We had a problem with the end house where the
royals then made a private visit to the home of a local butcher, Kevin Kidner, who was impacted by the flooding.
They're going to try and do what they can to try and help us out in one sense, but it's all to do with what can they do with the river. Well, they said they're going to try and push it anyway.
Thousands waited patiently in the pouring rain to meet their prince and princess, who braved the elements themselves to wish them a happy St David's Day. Not everyone was pleased to see them, but protesters were vastly outnumbered by royal supporters. This was the first time Prince William and Catherine had made a joint trip to Wales since the princess's cancer diagnosis. She's continuing her gradual return to public duties and is now in remission, preparing for her future role as Britain's Queen. Cameron Walker, GB News.
Oh, it's so good to see them together, isn't it?
I think it's really nice. I think it's really nice to see them getting stuck into, you know, the hands-on stuff and the baking, and I love all that sort of thing.
Yeah, me too.
It's nice. I think you've eaten a Welsh cake that's been handled by a royal.
Yeah, I'd love that. Do you eat jam with Welsh cakes?
I've no idea. I've never had a Welsh cake.
Do you put jam on them? Butter? Maybe
Could
some
you?
butter. Anyway, we should probably look into this. I love how I've suddenly gone and made that about food.
She always does.
I know.
But you are a good baker.
I am a good baker. I'll make some Welsh cakes. Maybe I should. St David's Day. Great idea.
Yeah.
We'll do that.
Very good. Right, now, time for the Great British Giveaway. You could be one of 2 new winners, each winning an iPhone, £500 of shopping vouchers and 10 grand in cold, hard cash. Here's how you enter.
Don't miss your chance to be one of 2 big winners in our latest Great British Giveaway, as we have 2 prize bundles that have to be won. There's 2 lots of a totally tax-free £10,000 in cash. You'll also receive a brand new iPhone 16, along with £500 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite store. Hurry, lines close on the 7th of March. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Do stay with us. Still to come, we'll have all the latest sport with Ada McGee. That's next.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In the Highland, the A887 is closed in both directions for emergency repairs between the A87 at Bunloyne and the A82 at Invermoriston. The M65 in Lancashire is closed westbound from the Boundary Mill roundabout to junction 10 north of Burnley after an accident. In Nottinghamshire, the A46 is closed northbound at the A1 junction at Newark after an accident. In Oxfordshire, the A4095 is blocked where a lorry's broken down on Lord's Lane in Bicester. On the M4 in Berkshire, 2 out of 3 lanes are closed westbound for repairs after a vehicle caught fire between junctions 13 and 14 from Newbury to Hungerford. And in East Sussex, the A259 remains closed in both directions along Grand Junction Road. The A23 Palace Pier roundabout in Brighton is an unsafe building. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Surprise. David McGee's here. Good morning.
Good morning to you both. Nice to see you.
Right, what are we starting with?
Well, I want to start with Liverpool because a victory last night against Newcastle United saw them pull 13 points. No, not out. The 13 points clear at the top of the Premier League. Now, my concern here, Stephen, is that the reason we haven't spoken much about F1 in the last few years is because it's become processional. The teams at the very top, the drivers at the top, have been winning every single year. Now, I'm not saying this is happening with Liverpool because they haven't won it since 2020. They've only won one in the last 35 years. But 13 points clear in February, it's not good for the league. I'll tell you why, because the three teams coming up from the Championship last season for the second year running look like they're going to go straight back down again. As a contest, we could see, apart from the Champions League places yet to be decided, we could see the Premier League over as a competition, and we're not even in March. And I think that's just a bit disappointing. That's not to take anything away from Liverpool's excellence. They've got some brilliant players, magnificent players, Mo Salah among them. But let me consider this stat. No team since 1888-89 has been this far ahead at this stage in February and not gone on to win the league. That's how imperious Liverpool are looking. So Arsenal dropped points last night at Nottingham Forest, so that means the gap is 13 points. And they've not been made to sweat for this, Liverpool. They've not really been tested. Whenever they've been in a title race in recent years, they've tended to come second best to Manchester City. Manchester City nowhere this year, of course. A lot of the other protagonists you thought might be up there, like Chelsea, for example, even Tottenham as an outside bet, have been nowhere near it. Arsenal didn't sign a striker. They're paying for it now. And I'm just concerned that we all love competition. That's why we like sport. We like competition in life, in anything. You know, even when there's a leadership race, we like analysing who the runners and riders, don't we? But we like to see competition. We don't like to see someone out in front. Although, look, that's to say...
Unless you're a Liverpool fan.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, absolutely. And as I say, sometimes sports can benefit from having one outstanding candidate. We saw how Tiger Woods transformed golf and made everyone, all the people he was beating became richer on account of how good he was. Now, this is only one title win for Liverpool that I think it will be. I don't think it's going to turn into 4 or 5 like Manchester City, but I just don't think it's very good. Given that there's still 3 months to go to the end of the season, that pretty much everything is decided at the top and the bottom, save for a few Champions League places. But I just want to touch on a couple of the other results as well, because Everton extended their unbeaten run to 7 matches. David Moyes, I don't know if you've seen him recently. He looks 10 years younger than he did this time last year when he was managing West Ham. He's had a real new lease of life. They should have won last night. They missed a couple of chances late on, but a good point on the road for them at Brentford. Manchester United, interesting, 3-2 against Ipswich Town, who are one of the teams in the bottom 3. You know, that was a real... They laboured to victory last night. They had 10 men as well. More questions for Ruben Amorim afterwards. And, yes, all right, they won. He reflected on it as a night of joy. But home to Ipswich Town against a side that haven't been in the Premier League since 2002. I wouldn't say that's a great night. And Manchester City winning 1-0 at Tottenham as well to solidify their Champions League hopes.
Should we take a look at the cricket?
Yeah, why not? Look, really embarrassing result for England against Afghanistan in the Champions Trophy. Lots of conjecture, lots of debate as well in recent weeks about whether England and whether the ECB should have actually played this game at all, given how female cricketers are being treated by the Taliban right now. But nonetheless, it was a really shameful victory by England. And they've been here before. You know, when I was a kid, I used to wake up regularly, going on the way to school in the car, listening to another batting collapse by England, usually against Australia, but not so much against Afghanistan. But I think it's going to mark the end for the captain, Jos Buttler. Very nice fella. He's had success. I mean, he captained England to World Cup victory in 2022, but he has talked as well about having to practice smiling in the mirror. And I don't think that's a very very positive thing to say when you're captain. And also when you're making quotes afterwards saying, I need to consider whether I'm part of the problem or part of the solution. All that says to me is that you think you're part of the problem and that it may be time to step aside. And the captaincy is sometimes about or management in general, sometimes it is about acting, isn't it? It's about putting on a brave face. But I think after a defeat like that, I think it's going to be very difficult for him to stay on. So I would expect an announcement from the ECB probably in the next week or so, maybe, if not sooner.
OK. Right, Aidan, thank you very much indeed. We'll see you later on.
Do stay with us. Still to come, we'll be going through the papers. But first, if you're in search of some winter sun, here's the forecast for some of the top European holiday destinations.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Heavy outbreaks of rain affecting western parts of the Mediterranean and improving temperatures across Greece, where they have been below average over the last few days. So some heavy outbreaks of rain, some heavy showers affecting Madeira, also parts of Lisbon and parts of Gibraltar at times. As we move towards the central Mediterranean, largely settled, lots of dry weather and some sunny spells. And although temperatures are improving across Greece, there are going to be some heavy showers at times, largely dry and settled into the weekend, with the best of the temperatures across Tenerife.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Lee Anderson's Real World, Fridays from 7 p.m.
Getting into medicine at a very early age, you had an interest when you were really, really young, didn't you?
I did. I decided to go to medicine when I was 8. And that was based on the stories my father used to tell me about my grandfather, who I never met, because my grandfather died when he was 11.
Yeah.
And he was in the military, and he was stationed up in the Himalayas. And he was a doctor in the military. And not only did he serve in the military, but he also served his patients. And he served them to the degree where he would go out and he'd take them supplies, and he'd really look after them and make sure that they were not just well, but could live and survive. And it was on a day when he was out there helping his patients. There was a storm up in the Himalayas.
Wow.
And he was out there taking blankets and clothes and food up to them. And on the way back, as he was coming down the Himalayas, there was a landslide which took his Jeep over the edge, and he perished in that. So he gave his life to his service. And it was these stories about my grandfather, what he did and how he helped people, that really inspired me to follow in his footsteps. Not necessarily to go into the military, but to go into medicine.
But he's left a wonderful legacy, because fast forward, you came to this country when you was 4, and you've studied medicine.
Yep.
And you do, we were talking earlier about DNA. You're looking at DNA, looking at people's DNA. You can do profiles on people, predict. Well, you can actually say with some accuracy where they've lived in the past, what jobs they've done, and what medically may happen to them in the future.
Yeah. And I think, over the last, we've been looking at the gene. There was a Human Genome Project last century, which finished.
GB News, the People's Channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking, this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get the book thrown at them. Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Right, it's time to go through the papers at 6:43 with Norman Baker and Alex Armstrong. Good morning, you two.
Good morning.
Norman, let's start with the Telegraph, should we? Looking at what Sir Keir Starmer's going to warn Donald Trump about.
Well, this is a very difficult attack for Keir Starmer to take to Trump. I mean, Trump is notoriously mercurial and difficult to negotiate around, and takes offence very easily. And as we've seen, appears to be far more comfortable with dictators like Putin than he is with democracies like Britain or France. However, Starmer's right that we need to have the US as a backstop to make sure Ukraine is protected. And I'm not sure that Trump is so minded. I mean, Trump was a person who, of course, called Zelensky a dictator, which is ironic because if there are any dictators around, it's Trump and Putin rather than Zelensky.
Yeah, well, Trump's not a dictator, though. We can't level that at him. That's not.
Well, have you seen what the White House issued? They issued a picture of Trump with a crown on it with the word king underneath. That's what the White House issued. That's where he's going. And we'll see later on, perhaps in the programme, this grotesque statue in Gaza. He wants a gold statue of himself in Gaza. I mean, the man is just out of control.
Yeah, I mean, look, so I think this is going to be very difficult for Keir Starmer, this meeting. I think this is going to be really hard because, of course, the entire European community has put their backs on Starmer after that famous meeting where nothing got done, unfortunately, to try and get Donald Trump on side. Donald Trump said some nice things about Keir Starmer, but, of course, we know there's going to be some difficult conversations, not just in that room about, Ukraine, but also about freedom of speech. We know J.D. Vance has been giving signals that he's going to go after Starmer on freedom of speech. So there's a lot happening. On top of that, Trump has also just announced 25% tariffs on the European Union yesterday, saying they're going to be coming shortly. So it's really heating up here. Now, of course, Trump's game is to chuck an anchor as far out and crazy as possible to the other end and see whether people bite on that anchor and then slowly draw it back to something where the diplomats in the middle try to get something a bit more reasonable between them. So we could be seeing a little bit of that Donald Trump tactics, but I am looking forward to that press conference because I think that's going to be really revealing.
Because that's the thing, isn't it? I think the two of them can have a show of unity when they're just talking amongst themselves, but the moment a journalist question, do you agree that Zelensky is a dictator? Those cracks will become...
They will be very obvious. And let's remember that last week the UK and France put down a motion in the United Nations identifying Russia as the aggressor in Ukraine. Nearly every country supported the UK and France. Who didn't? North Korea, Russia, its sidekick Belarus, and the United States. I mean, it's absolutely shameful.
It was shocking. However, in terms of, they want to be the intermediary in a negotiation between Ukraine and Russia. Perhaps that's a sensible move.
I think what he wants is he wants to use his might and power to screw what he can for the United States out of any deal he does with anybody. That's why he's going after Greenland, after Panama, after Canada even, and I think the same thing's happening here. And if there's a deal with Zelensky on Friday about rare metals, which we're told there is going to be, it's absolutely vital that's linked to security guarantees for Ukraine, because otherwise it's not what the paper's written on.
No, but in a sense it would be, wouldn't it? I mean, that is the backstop, isn't it?
Yeah.
If America is financially engaged in Ukraine, that's the backstop.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, it could well be that Putin would invade again and Putin would say to America, don't worry, we'll protect your deal on rare metals, you can still get your rare metals out. I mean, that's not sufficient.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm a little less sceptical about that. I think America really does like to protect its natural resources. I think it's gone to wars over less. Let's put it that way. When we went to war in the Middle East, in my opinion, over resources for a very, very long period of time to protect those. So I think that would be a good deal. I think it's unlikely to change anything, unfortunately, for Zelensky. But America does want its pay for the war. Let's put it that way. Again, go back to this talk, because I think this is going to be the most critical thing today that everyone's going to be watching, is this press conference between Starmer and Trump. And let's not forget, the last few times we've seen Keir Starmer do anything politically, he's been with a piece of paper like that on TV. So he's really going to have to step up.
Surely he would have been briefed better for this trip, though. It's going to be one of the most significant trips of his life.
I mean, you'd hope so. But, I mean, if he's having to read a piece of paper about his opinion on Ukraine and security on Ukraine, I worry that if Trump is coming left of field with a big topic, whether Starmer's got the grit to come back on it.
He'll have a briefing from the Foreign Office that said, these are the words you need to use. This won't offend Trump and it gets our position across. They'll be very, very carefully crafted. That's on that piece of paper. But Alex is right. If Trump says something off field, then Starmer will have to respond to that. I'm not sure he'll be ready for it.
I'll tell you what, just a final point on this. Of course, Nigel Farage came out a week or two ago and said, obviously, Zelensky is not a dictator.
Yes.
And then a few days later, Trump's praising him in the crowd at CPAC. So it's not as though you can't disagree with what Trump's rhetoric and still stay on side with it.
Yeah, I mean, funnily enough, Elon Musk is currently being sued by Donald Trump.
Is that right?
That's right, yeah. He's actually had to pay him out millions. So I think when we're talking about Trump, we have to put it in perspective. Is that this is his way of doing business. He is, yes, it's extremely difficult for politicians and for democracy, because this is not ever done like this before. But I think if you try and get in the headspace of Trump a little bit, you can see the way he tries to negotiate, and it's with the strongest arm, even those handshakes, you know, strongest arm possible.
All right, let's have a look at it's still in the Telegraph, this one, Alex. But police will be able to access drivers' personal details.
Yes. So, I was having a quick read of this morning. So this is actually, because I thought I recognised this. This is a previous Tory bill, actually. It's the Crime and Policing Bill, which is going to give police powers to access, you know, all the 50 million motorists across the country. But it's what the concern is about this, because you would say, well, that's not unreasonable. Surely police should have access to this. The concern that's being raised is around your freedom and your privacy, whether or not you think police who are driving along in their car should be able to access your picture, your date of birth, potentially facial recognition images. Those sorts of things are raising questions, particularly if you've done nothing wrong. I think that's where the concern is here. Now, a lot of people are saying this is an overreach. It's maybe perhaps distracting for the police rather than them looking for things that, you know, road related instead, but we'll see. I think it might be a bit of an overstretch.
Why would there be a problem with it, Norman?
Well, there's a problem in the sense that if you allow an element of the state, whether it's the police or Department of Social Security or anyone else for that matter, to access not simply what relates to their department and to their issue, but everything across that person, right across the history of that person, then potentially that's open to abuse. And you can find out that one person has the whole information about them captured by somebody for malevolent reasons.
Well, it could be, but in terms of the police, couldn't some of that information be prescient to what they're doing?
Well, go ahead.
I was going to say it could be, but I mean, what you need to do is to have safeguards in place, and the government's very good at talking about giving more powers to the police, but you always have to give powers and safeguards in parallel, and I don't see the safeguards here. For example, it could be you have to go to a judge and get permission to get those details. That would be a safeguard.
Yeah, I worry when we've obviously seen some very rare cases where it's gone pretty badly with some police officers, and you think, well, you know, maybe they just want to look up somebody they like the look. I mean, this is very, very strange example, I know, but I'm just saying, talk about those kinds of safeguards. I think it's important that the police don't have a massive amount of resources and power unless they really need it. Otherwise, we might as well, why don't we just give them everything? Why don't we just give them your whole life story on a piece of paper? And I think that's going too far.
Norman, let's take a look at this story in the Times, shall we? The front page this morning. A hospital hiring a doctor to treat patients in corridors.
Yeah, well, this is a sad state of affairs, isn't it? This is actually my area. This is the Brighton Hospital down where I live. And yes, they're now accepting that people are going to be in corridors for some time, elderly patients in particular, and they're going to have a doctor who specialises in corridor treatment. I mean, it is very, very sad indeed, and it reflects on the pressure the health service is under, but also the failure over many, many years, over many governments, to sort out social care. Because if you sort out social care, then you take pressure off the NHS. But no government's going to bite the bullet on it. And the consequence is elderly people sitting in corridors in Brighton. That's clearly what's happening, and it's not desirable at all.
But the problem is, we've been talking about social care provision for decades.
Yeah.
Decades and decades. The problem is no one seems to want to get to grips with the sheer cost and infrastructure involved in something.
They don't, but when I was in Sweden some time ago, I was interested that the health service and the social care system were united under one umbrella, and therefore decisions were taken as to what was in the best interest of the patient, and also bearing in mind the cost. Here, the NHS is run by a government department, and social care is run by county councils or unitary councils, so they're in conflict with each other, trying to pass the buck financially to each other.
Yeah, and there's a lot to do in the NHS. I mean, obviously, they were talking about these hospitals originally. There was these Boris hospitals, I think, was it 30, 40?
40 new hospitals.
That's right. That's been pushed, hasn't it, now to 20, 40, 50, whatever the date was. Streeting says it's not achievable. So even putting it that that blandly. Just rebuilding and building new hospitals that we desperately need won't happen until 2050, 2040.
But this is the thing, it's as though you don't want to invest now because it won't happen in your parliament.
Well, exactly.
It's a future endeavour,
yes.
isn't it?
Yes, that's a huge
why no
problem.
one wants to take it up.
That's actually a big problem, speaking as a Foreign Minister, that's a big problem in government. That what you want to be able to do is to invest and ensure the results of that investment during your time in office. Because if you don't, let's take roads, for example, or railways. You put money into that. All the public sees is something being dug up, inconvenience, traffic jams, whatever, cancelled trains, with a great result in 10 years' time. But in the meantime, you're facing elections and people only see the chaos.
Well, isn't there an argument to say that makes some major infrastructure projects need to be cross-party?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
It takes it out of that.
Yeah, totally agree, Stephen. And that's what happened originally with HS2. Andrew Adonis, who was the Transport Secretary, very sensibly pulled me in for the Lib Dems and pulled in Theresa Villiers for the Tories. And we got an agreement on HS2 between the three parties. And that lasted really for 10, 15 years. You have to do that sort of thing with big projects.
OK, look, lovely to see you both. We'll see you a little bit later on. Thank you very much indeed.
Let's get a check on the weather now with Honor.
Despite the morning rain, it'll be a nice, warm, cosy day ahead. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. A fine and settled day ahead. Lots of dry weather, lots of sunny spells, though we can't rule out a few occasional coastal showers, particularly around North Sea coasts. So East Anglia, for example, may see a slightly cloudier day on offer. Some showers moving through here too, and a little bit breezy at times. And across the northwest, can't rule out a few showers moving through here as well. The odd one may be a little bit heavy with some hail and thunder, but for the majority of the country, a dry day on offer, bright and even some sunshine poking through at times too, and highs of around 10, possibly 11 Celsius across the south, so feeling pleasant where you do catch the sunnier spells. As we head through into the evening across Scotland, still a few showers moving through here. Still, once again, could be a little bit heavy, perhaps even bringing the odd sprinkling of snow across the Scottish Highlands. A few showers just clipping coasts of Northern Ireland too, but elsewhere, northern parts of England should see a dry end to the day, and fairly similar across Wales, central parts of England and parts of the south. A dry end to the day, perhaps still some cloud lingering across East Anglia with the odd shower moving through here too. But then through into the overnight period with high pressure building, so that's going to ease away any showers. That's away from the northwest though, where they might continue for a time. But under clear skies, that means temperatures are soon going to dip away, and it's likely that we'll actually see quite a widespread frost by Friday morning, the last day of meteorological winter, and even towns and cities just about above freezing, but many rural spots likely to see quite a chilly start to the day with that patchy frost, possibly even some fog patches to start the day too. Things will eventually warm up and any fog will clear, and once again another dry day on offer, much brighter across parts of the southeast where we'll see a little bit of the cloud today. Lots of dry weather, lots of sunshine. That sunshine turning hazier though across the northwest as we see an ex-frontal system moving through. Once again highs of around 10 to 11 Celsius, so once again feeling pleasant in the sunshine.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In the Highland, the A887 is closed in both directions for emergency repairs between the A87 at Bunloyne and the A82 at Invermoriston. The M65 in Lancashire is closed westbound from the Foundry Mill roundabout to junction 10 at Burnley. After an accident in Oxfordshire, Lord's Lane in Bicester is blocked where a lorry is broken down. On the M4 in Berkshire, 2 out of 3 lanes are closed westbound for repairs after a vehicle caught fire between junctions 13 and 14 from Newbury to Hungerford. In London, the A233 is blocked by an accident on Main Road in Westerham. In East Sussex, the A259 remains closed with an unsafe building off the A23 Palace Pier roundabout in Brighton, and there are delays of up to 20 minutes to trains between Havant and Portsmouth Harbour. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
Don't miss your chance to be one of 2 big winners in our latest Great British giveaway, as we have 2 prize bundles that have to be won. There's 2 lots of a totally tax-free £10,000 in cash. You'll also receive a brand new iPhone 16, along with £500 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite store. Hurry, lines close on the 7th of March. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Good morning. Sir Keir Starmer arrives in Washington for crunch talks with Donald Trump.
On the agenda, impending tariffs, a Western alliance in jeopardy, and Vladimir Putin.
Well, it all comes as the Prime Minister has downplayed the tension between the two sides, insisting he can trust the Trump.
Meanwhile, the US President says Kyiv will have to make concessions when it comes to NATO membership.
NATO you can forget about. I think that's probably the reason the whole thing started.
The Foreign Secretary claims the Chagos deal is off if President Trump rejects it. Here's what Conservative heavyweight Robert Jenrick had to say.
If our own leaders are so weak and feckless that they want to do this, then yes, I would love to have, President Trump to step in and end this farce. But it shouldn't have to come to that, should it? No.
A royal away day. Prince William and Princess Catherine try their hand at Welsh cake making during a visit to the country in honour of St David's Day on Saturday.
Gary Lineker hits out at the BBC after it removed a documentary deemed to be pro-Hamas.
And as experts warn Labour's private school tax is threatening British rugby, we're asking, is it killing our traditions?
Also later in the programme, we're going to be joined by the winners of the prestigious National Fish and Chip Awards.
Good morning. Liverpool moved 13 points clear at the top of the Premier League with victory over Newcastle last night. And while current Manchester United boss Ruben Amorim deals with an act of petulance by Alejandro Garnacho, his predecessor Erik ten Hag has some choice words for the modern generation of players.
Hello there, good morning. A fine, dry and settled day ahead. Plenty of sunshine, though a few showers in places. To find out where, stay tuned and I'll be here with all the details.
It's just gone 7 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
I'm Ellie Costello and this is GB News Breakfast.
Now, we all know that language evolves, but it's getting ridiculous now. Okay. Is it all down to smartphones? Poggers is the new thing.
Poggers?
Are you poggers over your drip?
Sorry?
Well, that means you're apparently... This is for young people.
Yeah.
Apparently it means you're enthusiastic about your stylish outfit. Your poggers over your drip.
Oh, right. So poggers is enthusiasm.
And drip is your outfit.
I knew what drip was, yeah.
Pogging when I was a kid was just looking at something. If you're pogging at me and you're staring at me.
Yeah.
Don't know that one.
And apparently top of the new words is finster, which means a fake Instagram account intended to keep parents in the dark about their more private or controversial online activity.
That's quite good, actually.
Their Finsta account.
Finsta account. Yeah, I think that could catch on. I'm not sure about pocket.
Like a burner phone.
Like a burner phone, but a burner account.
And there's all these acronyms as well now. CL, can't lie.
Oh.
NGL, not going to lie.
No, that's not on here.
Right,
GRWM, get ready with me.
Yeah. And OOTD is outfit of the day.
Well, do you know that one?
I knew that one, and I know the get ready with me.
Well,
I haven't heard CL, can't lie. But I quite like that CL.
How do you get ready with me?
You know, on like Instagram, you'd be like, get ready with me whilst I get ready for the show, and then I'd do my makeup or something.
Oh.
It's like a video trend thing that you do on Instagram or TikTok.
See, even now, sometimes...
That's what all the kids are doing these
Sometimes you
days.
walk down the street and if you walk past a group of young people, I can't tell what they're saying. I have no idea what they're saying.
It is a different language,
Could be a totally different language.
I found the fashion fascinating. On my road yesterday, a group of young girls walked past and I thought, they're probably born in, like, 2010. How scary is that?
Incredible.
Is there 15?
Yeah.
They're 2010.
I know.
And they're all wearing really baggy clothes.
Yeah, well, it's like the 80s.
Yeah, I remember baggy clothes
fashion.
when I was a kid. Yeah, I remember baggy trousers as well. There was a song, wasn't it? But there was actually a trend. Baggy
That's what they're all wearing these days. Big
I
jackets,
know.
big jeans.
One of our producers the other day had a pair of jeans on which looked like something out of 1985.
Really?
I thought, if I'd only kept hold of my old jeans, it'd have
Back
been
to the
all right.
Future.
It was, honestly, it was terrible.
That was 85, was it?
It was 85.
Yeah, that's the thing with fashion, it comes back around.
It does, this one.
You've got to hang on to your jeans.
Hang on to it.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think I'd fit in them anymore, but that's a different story altogether.
Oh, Jackie Briggs has been in touch,
has she?
saying your beard looks amazing,
not
and she
talk
loves
about
it.
it?
He gets very embarrassed, but can I just say, I've never had so many messages from fans of yours saying how handsome you look.
Oh, thank you. But
Bristling with confidence.
also looking at your say this morning, I'm not going to name you, but plenty of people saying how much they hate it. So there you go. So it all balances out.
He's very humble.
Oh, get up. Cut that away from me.
I love it, and I know you all do at home.
It's not a permanent fixture. I say this because I'm having some shots done in the next few weeks.
Are you?
Because I missed the last
You're
slot.
modelling?
So it's going to have to come off for that because I'm not having publicity shots with this on.
Oh, I'll be sad to see it go. I'm enjoying this era.
It's only a phase.
The bearded era.
Right.
Enough
of that. Enough. Let's move on. Because it's 7:05. The Prime Minister has flown 3,000 miles across the Atlantic, where he's meeting President Trump today.
Well, speaking to reporters, he dismissed growing tensions between the US and Europe and insists that the special relationship must go from strength to strength.
Our political editor, Christopher Hope, has the latest from Washington.
Sir Keir Starmer touched down in Washington, D.C. last night for what will be today the most consequential meeting of his 7 months as Prime Minister. He meets with Donald Trump, of course, in the Oval Office, a key meeting with the fate of Ukraine hanging in the balance and the future of any peace deal which might be agreed between Ukraine and Russia. On the flight over, Sir Keir Starmer told us in no uncertain terms that it was vital Donald Trump agreed to underwrite any security deal after any peace deal is signed with Russia, between Russia and Ukraine. He made clear the security guarantee was important in case Putin came again after any peace deal was signed. And he said the UK was looking at putting in UK troops to help enforce that peace deal. To get ready for that commitment, Sir Keir Starmer has taken a major step for a Labour Prime Minister. He's cut foreign aid budget to spend on defence. But all hangs in a balance here in Washington, D.C. Will Trump agree to a European security pact to ensure that peace in Ukraine?
Well, as Christopher Hope mentioned, it's expected that Sir Keir Starmer will push the president to provide a backstop against further Russian aggression in Ukraine. The problem? Well, Trump isn't sold.
We're not going to make security guarantees beyond very much. We're going to have Europe do that because it's in, we're talking about Europe as their next door neighbor. The European Union's it was formed in order to screw the United States. I mean, look, let's be honest. The European Union was formed in order to screw the United States. That's the purpose of it. And they've done a good job of it, but now I'm president.
What concessions would you like to see? What concessions would you like to see?
Oh, I don't want to tell right now, but I can tell you that NATO you can forget about. I think that's probably the reason the whole thing started.
Let's talk to political commentator Theo Usherwood. Does he have a point when it comes to this backstop? Now, backstops, when you've got a peacekeeping or reassurance force, are very important, but why should we be looking to the United States to provide it rather than European armed forces?
Keir Starmer's point is going to be that ultimately this is against Vladimir Putin, and the danger is that Putin could come back, that if he comes out of this peace agreement feeling as if he's been emboldened, that he's taken more of Ukraine than he could ever have hoped for in terms of territory, and potentially with elections he could install, or they could shake down in a way that there is a pro-Putin leader to replace Zelensky. If that were to happen and Putin was to leave, the conclusion would be from Putin that he's done very well out of it, then he would want to come back and potentially attack a European, a NATO country. And what Starmer's saying, and potentially have another go at Ukraine as well. So what Starmer is saying is that we want to have that security, we want to have that security supported by the United States. But I think there's a more general point. If you just take, and I heard this statistic the other day, it's an extraordinary statistic, European NATO, take America out of the equation, is 10 times richer than Russia. We are perfectly within our own, in Europe, we're perfectly within our own gift to put together an armed force that is capable of taking on Vladimir Putin and Russia. We can do it. The problem that has come, and this is Trump's point, is that we've become reliant on the United States, and actually it's become a question of we don't want to spend our budgets, as they're becoming increasingly squeezed, going back 20 years now, on defence. And Trump is trying to ensure that Europe changes its outlook and actually starts to put much more money into defence so that we can ensure our own security.
Theo, how do you think Keir Starmer is going to play this in Washington? Because on the plane over, he was downplaying any sort of tension. He was talking about trusting Trump and mentioning the special relationship as well. But it is clear they are on opposite sides of the political spectrum, and they've got personality differences as well.
They do have personality differences, and we're talking about, the lawyer in Keir Starmer against the businessman of Donald Trump, but sometimes opposites can attract. And as Greg was saying, and I thought this was a very astute point, Donald Trump is a big believer in the UK. He likes the royal family. We know how. We know how previously he's looked to the royal family and enjoyed his state visit last time round. I have to say, a second state visit for Donald Trump, that's unprecedented. It's very rare for any world leader to be given a state visit. And Barack Obama only got one, George Bush got one, Xi Jinping of China got one. Donald Trump getting a second state visit, I think, would show the love and the reverence in which the British government was to hold him and his views. So I think that's the... in terms of Keir Starmer playing it, to answer your question, Ellie, I think he needs to go in on the fact that this is the UK in the room. He represents, as the Prime Minister, he is there to represent the United Kingdom, rather than necessarily allowing the personality differences to take hold.
It's a very strange situation we find ourselves in, especially when it comes to something like the Chagos Islands, which the Labour government, and to be fair, the Tories before them, because it sort of crossed the divide a little bit, seemed determined to give the Chagos Islands away or pay for the privilege of having a joint military base on there. The Foreign Secretary's now said, well, it'll all be scrapped if Trump doesn't want it, which is an extraordinary thing for the Foreign Secretary to say. This is what Robert Jenrick told us last night.
Ridiculous that there's any suggestion that these islands, should belong to Mauritius. There's no reason we should be doing this. We should have the self-respect as a country to say this is ours. We're not giving it away, and Keir Starmer could do that tomorrow.
Do you want Trump to veto it, though, if it comes to that?
Well, look, if our own leaders are so weak and feckless that they want to do this, then yes, I would love to have, President Trump to step in and end this farce. But it shouldn't have to come to that, should it?
Shouldn't have to come to that.
No, but just to point out that Robert Jenrick was obviously a part of the Conservative Party's Shadow Justice Secretary. It was the Conservatives that started this process. There were 11 rounds of the 13 rounds of negotiations, which were led by the Conservatives. And we haven't found ourselves here as a result of any decision originally taken by Keir Starmer or indeed his Attorney General Lord Hermer. So I think that's just worth bearing in mind. I think the point is that if Donald Trump decides to come in and say, you don't need to worry about this. I've got it. This Diego Garcia is really important. We don't like the idea, because at the moment the Chagos Islands belong to Britain, and the Americans may well come to a view that they have more stability with that base, which is strategic importance is paramount because it's used as a launch point for missions in the Middle East and the Far East. And that actually, he would rather, Donald Trump and Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, would rather say, these islands belong to Britain, we've got your back on this, don't worry about it, we're going to keep the base, and they would much rather that scenario than having to give them back to Mauritius because of this non-binding international court ruling, and then we have to rent them back at enormous expense. This comes down to this and the Americans may well come to the view that actually it's far better that these islands remain British. And if that happens, then it will just get kicked into the proverbial long grass in the international court system, and that process will, just run its course over a very long period of time, I'd imagine.
OK. Theo, thank you.
Well, we're joined now by the chair of Republicans Overseas UK, Greg Swenson. Good to see you, Greg.
Good morning.
And William Hague has described this as one of the most consequential meetings between a British Prime Minister and a US President since Roosevelt and Churchill in 1941. Would you agree with that statement?
Yeah, I don't think that's a stretch. I think there's probably been other moments of significance, but this is very big for the UK. It's very, very big for the Prime Minister. And one of the concerns that he should have is if President Trump throws a grenade in the room and starts bringing up some issues that aren't really front page right now, it's, of course, Ukraine and the defense of Ukraine is the top issue, Chagos, of course. But what if he brings up the threats to American tech companies for violating, censorship rules or disinformation, as they call it? That could be an issue of disagreement, to say the least. What about the ICC, the International Criminal Court, and the arrest warrant on Benjamin Netanyahu? What about that? There's some things that, and even domestic policy, the fact that the UK economy is over-regulated and overtaxed, and that's something that, as an ally, President Trump could bring up. And so there's some curveballs that could be thrown to him.
But what's interesting, as you say, is going to be how Sir Keir responds to that. Now, what does Donald Trump like people who just nod and smile and agree with him, or does he respect people who actually stand their ground?
I think it's the latter. I think he, with Macron the other day on Monday, sort of correcting President Trump, but he's able to do that. Macron has that talent. I'm not sure that the Prime Minister does, but I think President Trump would respect that without getting into a brawl, of course. But you don't want to be in a street fight with President Trump. But I just think there are issues that go beyond Ukraine that are sensitive. There's a little scar tissue with President Trump on, the Labour government or Labour Party sending 100 people over to campaign against President Trump. There's the censorship issues, where disinformation, quote unquote, was censored back during COVID. Any sort of disagreement on vax mandates or lockdowns, or of course the Hunter Biden laptop. So there's some real scar tissue in America in general about censorship, and I think that's an issue that is difficult for the United Kingdom right now. And J.D. Vance quite rightly pointed that out 10 days ago or 2 weeks ago in Munich.
OK, Greg Swenson, good to see you this morning.
Good
Thank
to
you
be
very
here.
much.
Thank you.
Well, it is interesting. It leads on to our poll of the day today. We're asking, will the special relationship flourish between Sir Keir Starmer and Donald Trump? Ooh, it's up in the air at the moment.
Here's a bit.
We'll bring the live results throughout the day. Final result in Martin's show later. And if you want to take part, go to gbnews.com/poll.
Now, at 16 minutes past 7, let's take a look at some other stories coming into the newsroom this morning.
Well, the Metropolitan Police has revealed a new charter for stop and search powers to increase transparency. According to the force, 8,000 Londoners from all ethnicities and backgrounds helped create the document, as they phrased it. Stop and search has often been considered contentious because of issues with racial disparity.
Gary Lineker has joined more than 500 other media professionals to hit out at the BBC after it removed a documentary deemed to be pro-Hamas. In an open letter, the signatories criticised the decision, dubbing it politically motivated censorship. Last week, the corporation apologised after it emerged that one of the child protagonists in the documentary was found to be the son of a Hamas leader.
Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Gossip Girl actress Michelle Trachtenberg has been found dead at the age of 39. She was in her home in New York City. Officers had responded to a 911 call. The police have opened an investigation but say criminality is not suspected.
Let's take a look at the weather now with Honor.
A chilly start will give way to a lovely, warm afternoon. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. A fine and settled day ahead. Lots of dry weather, lots of sunny spells, though we can't rule out a few occasional coastal showers, particularly around North Sea coasts. So East Anglia, for example, may see a slightly cloudier day on offer. Some showers moving through here too, and a little bit breezy at times. And across the northwest, can't rule out a few showers moving through here as well. The odd one may be a little bit heavy with some hail and thunder, but for the majority of the country, a dry day on offer, bright and even some sunshine poking through at times too, and highs of around 10, possibly 11 Celsius across the south, so feeling pleasant where you do catch the sunnier spells. As we head through into the evening across Scotland, still a few showers moving through here. Still, once again, could be a little bit heavy, perhaps even bringing the odd sprinkling of snow across the Scottish Highlands. A few showers just clipping coasts of Northern Ireland too, but elsewhere, northern parts of England should see a dry end to the day, and fairly similar across Wales, central parts of England and parts of the south. A dry end to the day, perhaps still some cloud lingering across East Anglia with the odd shower moving through here too. But then through into the overnight period with high pressure building, so that's going to ease away any showers. That's away from the northwest though, where they might continue for a time. But under clear skies, that means temperatures are soon going to dip away, and it's likely that we'll actually see quite a widespread frost by Friday morning, the last day of meteorological winter, and even towns and cities just about above freezing, but many rural spots likely to see quite a chilly start to the day with that patchy frost, possibly even some fog patches to start the day too. Things will eventually warm up and any fog will clear, and once again another dry day on offer, much brighter across parts of the southeast where we'll see a little bit of the cloud today. Lots of dry weather, lots of sunshine. That sunshine turning hazier though across the northwest as we see next frontal system moving through. Once again highs of around 10 to 11 Celsius, so once again feeling pleasant in the sunshine.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Well, it's time for the Great British Giveaway now, and you could be one of 2 new winners, each with an iPhone, shopping vouchers and £10,000 in tax-free cash. Here's how you enter.
Don't miss your chance to be one of 2 big winners in our latest Great British Giveaway, as we have 2 prize bundles that have to be won. There's 2 lots of a totally tax-free £10,000 in cash. You'll also receive a brand new iPhone 16, along with £500 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite store. Hurry, lines close on the 7th of March. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Yes, good luck. Now, do stay with us. Still to come, we're asking, is the future of British rugby under threat by Labour's private school tax raid? We're going to be talking about that next.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Tubes & Co. Weekdays from 6 p.m.
we often ponder the state of the nation. So this story then really caught my eye. A head teacher who some people have dubbed, I quote, the head teacher from hell. He's caught the press attention because he has a school in Wales. He's now looking at introducing Saturday detentions. He says that we have to stop mollycoddling kids and start to bring back good old-fashioned discipline.
We are fed up with kind of being soft on discipline. We are fed up of hiding behind words like well-being and safe spaces. There has to be a consequence to an action. And that's what we're trying to instill at Caldicot.
And tell me about the parents of some of these kids, because I would argue that much of the breakdown in society does come now. You see these kids on public transport, they don't have earphones in, they just listen to their music, they've got no respect for their elders. I know I sound like an old fuddy-duddy, but it all seems to have kind of broken down. And then I find myself, Alan, thinking, well, what are the parents doing in all of this? Are the parents supportive of your approach or not?
So we've got 1,300 parents. 2 or 3 took their children out of the school because they didn't agree with it. About 20 sort of kicked back, but now are on board. I think that's a great statistic. It shows that the overwhelming vast majority of people want this kind of discipline. And I don't blame young people today for the state of the culture or the nation. They are the fruit of it. I believe that if my generation puts in place strict discipline, firm boundaries, no means no, then we will get the young people that we want and that, you know, we deserve.
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good morning, it's 7:25. Now, here's a link. Might be a bit tenuous, but let's give it a whirl. The future of English rugby could be under threat.
Yes, Labour's raid on private school fees could mean that future talent miss out on positions at top schools.
Well, scholarships and bursaries that usually cover some pupils' fees have become, apparently, a rarity.
So this morning we're asking, is Labour's private school tax killing British traditions?
Let's talk to former Apprentice star and public school advocate Ryan Mark Parsons. Morning, Ryan Mark. Is this a bit of a tenuous link to say rugby's under threat because Labour's taxing private schools?
Well, not really, because if you look at the stats, over a third of England's professional rugby players come from private schools. And because of the investment into sport, heavy investment, even at my old school, it is a central part of life at private schools. Friends that go to private schools, it's integral, really, day to day. You don't really get that at state schools, and that's really because of the investment into this kind of stuff. And unfortunately, when that is eradicated because schools are closing down, Bedstone College, for example, in Shropshire has to close down because it's not feasible. The VAT plus employers' national insurance means it's just not possible for them to absorb the money that Labour are imposing upon them. So this is a real shame, and we're going to see tradition in this country fade away, not just in sport, but also Britain's ethos of fair play and meritocracy and working hard aspiration. This is politics of envy and everything the Labour government is attacking.
And Ryan Mark, what would you say to people who are watching and listening and just saying, well, we don't actually care very much?
About what?
About English rugby being under threat. I mean, what does it matter to them at home?
Well, it's not just England's rugby teams. It's also rowing, it's cricket, it's all of the traditional sports that you might see at some of these private schools like Eton, Westminster, and others. I think if people at home are thinking, why should they care? Well, they've got a serious problem. It's culture. You know, you should embrace culture British traditions, if you're proud of your country, which I'm sure a lot of the GB News viewers are, then this would be a major concern. Because unfortunately, what you will see is that it's not a levelling up agenda, what the Labour government seems to be doing, sort of driving for equality. You're actually going to drag everyone down. And then you'll see 40,000, what they're estimating, 20 to 40,000 students from the private school system going into the state schools, which are actually just going to further ruin them because they're already overcrowded, let alone dealing with that level of that influx from the private school system. So I'm very worried, and people should be worried if they're watching this or listening.
It's slightly concerning, though, isn't it? That, I mean, a sport that we're so passionate about in rugby does seem to be driven by private school, by private education. I mean, we all played it in our comprehensive schools. So why is there not more emphasis, for example, on saying, well, actually, we need to improve the standard of these types of sports, actually, in the good old-fashioned comps?
Well, I think a lot of it is to do with the traditions and cultural aspects that you get with private schools. I mean, rugby school, for example, the heart of rugby in this country. And I just feel, like I was saying at the top of the show, it's the investment that they put into these sports. I just think anecdotally about my experience at private school and how much emphasis was put into sport. And comparatively, at state schools, friends that went to state schools, the idea of sport, it doesn't seem as fundamental as it is in the private school ethos. It was such a big part of my private school education. And I think that largely comes down to the investment. Plus, about a third of students are in receipt of some kind of bursary or scholarship, and that's largely awarded because of their talent in sport. And also, if private schools can't exist because of the increase with VAT and NICs, then the opportunity won't exist. It won't exist for these talented state school students to go to private school where they can flourish in those sports.
OK, Ryan Mark Parsons, always good to see you. Thank you very much for your time. Let us know what you think. gbnews.com/you'll say.
We're going to be talking sport in just a minute and also talking politics, so don't go anywhere.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In the Highland, the A887 is closed in both directions for emergency repairs between the A87 at Bunloin and the A82 at Invermorriston. The M65 in Lancashire is closed westbound from junction 14 at the Bantry Mill roundabout to junction 10 at Burnley after an accident. There are some cancelled Stena Line sailings this morning between Holyhead and Dublin because of a technical problem. In Oxfordshire, the A4095 is blocked where a lorry's broken down on Lord's Lane in Bicester. On the M4 in Berkshire, 2 out of 3 lanes are closed westbound between junctions 13 and 14 from Newbury to Hungerford for emergency repairs after a vehicle caught fire. And in East Sussex, the A259 remains closed each way along Grand Junction Road in Brighton off the A23 Palace Pier roundabout. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Will, please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons,
Very, very curious.
we bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
7:33, just a bit of breaking news. And Andrew and Tristan Tate have reportedly left Romania this morning by private jet heading for the United States.
Well, 3 years ago, the pair were arrested on allegations of rape, human trafficking and money laundering, something they have both denied. Previously, the brothers were banned from leaving the country, but now that ban appears to have lifted.
OK, so we'll keep you up to date with that. Now, let's talk politics, should we? Because the Prime Minister has arrived in the United States, got that key meeting with President Trump today. Let's talk to the Shadow Paymaster General, Richard Holden. Good to see you this morning. What's your take on how Keir Starmer's going to perform in this and what you want to see out the end of it?
Look, I think everybody wants Keir Starmer, on behalf of the country, to do as well as practically possible. Obviously, given the history there and the way that Labour politicians have talked about President Trump in the past, that obviously throws a bit of a difficult context for him. But obviously, we do wish him well on behalf of the country. There's a lot going on in the world at the moment. President Trump has talked a lot about defence spending, about the war in Europe. So it's good to see yesterday the Prime Minister commit to what Conservatives have proposed and get up to 2.5% of defence spending, with more to come in the future. But there are real concerns over things like the Chagos Islands, which he hasn't been clear about as to where that money is coming from, and it could even be coming from our defence budget.
Well, that's going to be a sticking point, isn't it, between Donald Trump and Sir Keir Starmer, the Chagos Islands deal. And David Lammy, Foreign Secretary, came out yesterday essentially saying, well, if Trump doesn't want it, then it's not going to go ahead. The whole thing's going to be scrapped. A pretty extraordinary thing to hear from the Foreign Secretary, don't you agree? And do you want Trump to veto it?
Yes. Look, I think this is Labour trying to work their way into a get-out clause out from a really sticky situation, which is entirely of their own making. I mean, the idea that
well, the negotiations did start under the Tories, though, didn't it?
You're absolutely right. We had some negotiations with the Conservatives. Those were stopped by David Cameron, Lord Cameron, when he was Foreign Secretary. We couldn't see a deal which would ever been acceptable to the UK. That's why we stopped those negotiations. Astonishingly, Lord Hermer, one of the old mates of Keir Starmer, seems to have restarted them and then said we should surrender British sovereignty over this territory and then pay billions and billions of pounds for the privilege. I think what David Lammy was saying last night was basically, please get me out of this sticky situation, because there's clearly internal factions within the government in the UK. Absolutely astonishing that they should be so divided internally over this, and trying, almost begging it seemed, President Trump to intervene and to try and bring an end to this absolute chaos, when you can see potentially tens of billions of pounds being spent by UK taxpayers to actually try and hold on to lease what is actually British territory.
What seems slightly extraordinary, and maybe I'm seeing it from the wrong point of view, I don't know, but we've had Brexit and everything, to get our independence, to be our great British nation again, and it just seems to be, and I'm not saying I disagree with the decisions. I mean, increased defence spending is good. Taking it from the foreign aid budget, not a bad idea. Scrapping the Chagos deal seems like a sensible move. Yet all of these decisions, in effect, seem to be being made in the White House, and we're just enacting them.
Well, it does feel like UK government, because of the way so many Labour politicians spoke about President Trump before the election, they're now having to bend over backwards to do whatever he says now. Obviously, it's really important that the Prime Minister is there, acting in the British interest. But these decisions, I just can't understand. This is stuff that I, as a Conservative MP, was arguing for before, and it seems that slowly, Labour are coming round to it now, but only because of international pressure. I think they should be doing it because it's the right thing to do and in the British national interest. And what's really concerning is that, yes, we have heard some noises in the right direction, but if this 2.5% includes giving away billions of pounds because as part of some Chagos deal, then it's not 2.5% at all. And the Prime Minister, when questioned by Kemi Badenoch in the House of Commons yesterday, multiple times refused to come clean on that. So I think there's a lot still here that we still don't know. And with people like Lord Hermer, who basically has made a fortune out of basically pursuing the UK, suing the UK government over whichever of our enemies was out there trying to take legal action against the UK. Lord Hermer seems to have been right behind them every step of the way. I really don't trust these guys to act in the British national interest at all.
In terms of a US backstop, which is going to be one of the key things that's going to be discussed in Washington, a security guarantee, if you will, for potential European, potentially British peacekeeping force on the ground, it is vital in order to stop Putin invading again. That's what Keir Starmer is going to say to Trump today. Would you agree with that statement? And do you think that President Trump would allow a US backstop?
Look, I think we're going to have to see. It'll only be a few hours before we know exactly what's going to happen there. These will be incredibly complex negotiations. British troops have been, a part of many peacekeeping missions, whether it's in Cyprus under the UN or in Kosovo under NATO. I think what we need to see, though, is the detail of this. It's vital that Ukraine is part of any negotiations in this regard. This has to be something which is, hopefully a peace which can be accepted by all sides, but they have to be part of it, and we'll just have to see what comes forwards. Obviously, President Trump and this is something that actually American presidents have wanted for some time, is that Europe steps up on defence. Not so much the UK, but some of our friends, shall we say, across the Channel, particularly some of those big countries like Germany, really haven't been pulling their weight within NATO. It's great to see some of that starting to shift. I want to see that shift further. It's been good to see Finland and Sweden coming into NATO. We've got, those are big steps in the right direction, but this has got to be about everybody playing their part, because this is a mutual defence treaty, right? The UK taxpayers are funding it as well, and we should be able to rely on others like others can rely on ourselves.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Look, do you have any concerns over what is happening at the moment, that Putin is pulling the strings?
No, I think actually what we want to see is peace in Ukraine, right? That's what we want to see, but that has to be with the Ukrainians at its heart, and I think that's where we are. I think the real concern that I have when I look at defence, particularly from the UK perspective, is a government actually really committed to some of these targets it's suddenly become converted to over the last week or two? They wouldn't put dates on when they would see a defence spending uplifted a few weeks ago, which is what we'd proposed. It's a Conservative proposal. They've now come to it. Now it seems that they're trying to wiggle around that with this, Chagos deal. Those things really concern me. That it's actually Labour's instinct isn't in favour of a strong British defence, isn't in favour of Britain. Their instinct seems to be going the other way, and they have to be dragged kicking and screaming by Kemi Badenoch's speech earlier this week, by President Trump, to actually come to the right position. And that's what really concerns me, that on every single issue, actually we're having to grab them and drag them into doing the right thing for the British people.
OK. Richard Holding, good to see you this morning. Thank you for your time.
Interesting, but we're going to have to wait and see what happens. We're having full analysis of that, and of course we've got Christopher Hope out there. We've got the papers heading away in just a moment, but first, if you fancy a bit of winter sun, here's the forecast of the top European holiday destinations.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Heavy outbreaks of rain affecting western parts of the Mediterranean and improving temperatures across Greece, where they have been below average over the last few days. So some heavy outbreaks of rain, some heavy showers affecting Madeira, also parts of Lisbon and parts of Gibraltar at times. As we move towards the central Mediterranean, largely settled, lots of dry weather and some sunny spells. And although temperatures are improving across Greece, there are going to be some heavy showers at times, largely dry and settled into the weekend, with the best of the temperatures across Tenerife.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
Sadly, on the 18th of December last year, I was 9:20 in the morning in London on Woolwich Manor Way, going about my business to deliver something to someone, and I heard a banging on my car door. The handle was being rattled, but I locked my door in London, Martin, and the next thing I knew was a fist with something metal just punched through the driver's window into my face and knocked me over to the passenger seat. I had a wonderful angel called Bobby, who was my witness, who saw it happen. We got to hospital in Essex. They couldn't deal with it because it was a bad injury, and I ended up in Moorfields Hospital on the 19th. My lovely wife was incredible. I had an operation, and currently, as I sit opposite you, I have 6 stitches holding my eyeball together, and I've got at least 3 more operations to hopefully get my sight back.
Now, the astonishing thing about this is it was just a random act from some nutter. It's changed your life forever. The moment you can't see, your cornea is dislodged, you need to go undergo major eye surgery. But, Mike, a lot of people will be saying the obvious thing. Why has nobody been nicked? Well, I know Woolwich, right? You can't drive through Woolwich without getting a ticket for Ulez, right? The geezer was in a van or a car?
He was in a dark van, and I unfortunately wasn't able to take a photograph of the reg plate.
There's got to be CCTV there.
There's got to be CCTV there, and all I can say is that I do feel let down because it's GBH, it's not just stealing a handbag, not that that's making, a small issue of that. That's bad enough. But being GBH, they dropped the case after 3 weeks.
GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your-say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
7:45, time for the papers with Norman Baker and Alex Armstrong. Good morning to you both.
Morning.
Alex, let's start with the Mail. What's the boss of BP saying?
You never guess this, right? So you all know British Petroleum, BP, famous, obviously, been having this big green push the last decade or so, I'd say. They even changed their logo to that lovely green leaf to make themselves look more net zero. However, it looks like... I
always think that when I'm
pumping your petrol in your car.
Into the car.
But obviously, they have made a big thing about net zero, and they've been trying to do this whole carbon thing. But they're now scrapping it. They're saying, right, that's it, we've had enough. We're doing this big U-turn. And their chief executive is his name, Murray Ashenloss, has said they misplaced to rush net zero. So I think this is clearly a sign of following, step foot with America, with Donald Trump coming and saying, drill, baby, drill, and saying that they're going to get rid of their net zero plans. Now they feel they have the political power to do so. I think that's my opinion.
But it would suggest that even the cabinet might think it's gone too far and too fast. not like Miliband, but with Rachel Reeves and her growth agenda, we've got expansions at Heathrow, expansions at Gatwick.
Yeah, which actually make no sense.
Very green?
No, they're not very green at all. And actually, if you look at the so-called green economy, the renewables and everything else, growth last year in the green economy was 10% in this country. Growth in the non-green economy was 0.1%. So actually, we're doing rather well by investing in green technology in this country.
I mean, so you wonder why BP take this position. Mr. Auchinloss saying energy costs have overtaken concerns about climate change.
Well, I think that's probably true. I mean, the zeitgeist has moved, as Alex says, and there is a move in the States to go back to fossil fuels. There was some suggestion that BP's board thought there was more money to be made by fossil fuels in the short term than by renewables. That's more part of it. I mean, BP, if you go back 10, 20 years, they called themselves Beyond Petroleum. Not just British Petroleum, Beyond Petroleum, and that's now gone out the window.
Yeah. Oh, it's interesting, isn't it? It is interesting. I don't know what to make of it all. It's things like electric cars, because on the same page, actually, Aston Martin has hit brakes on an e-car. I mean, not that we'll be buying electric Aston Martins.
Looks nice, though.
But, you know, I like the idea of an electric car, but you sort of think, are they going to be worth anything? Are hydrogen fuel cells actually going to be the way forward? Would it be a waste of money?
Yeah, I think, well, obviously, the electric car market is taking a massive hit, particularly here in Europe. I think it's down 50% as it's sort of hit this peak. But also, the infrastructure is just not there yet.
No.
It's just not there yet. And, consumers move when there is the right time and place. And I think until that infrastructure exists, people just aren't going to have the desire to go and buy electric vehicles. They currently have to have these big things on their wall and have cables running out to the main road. And I think if we really do want electric vehicles to be a big thing, we've got to make them more sustainable infrastructure in the country.
Yeah, and actually people have stopped buying Teslas quite a lot because of the Elon Musk connection.
Yeah. The Tesla stock price has absolutely crashed at the minute.
Norman, let's take a look at Trumpy land.
Yeah, I don't want to keep going about Trump, but I mean, I have to say that the man just forces himself into the news every day with different things. We got a film somewhere I hope we can play. Have we got a film?
All right, hold on. Here it comes.
It's an AI video posted by Donald Trump yesterday. His plan for Gaza.
Yes.
Let's have a look.
More fear. Trump Gaza is finally here. Trump Gaza shining bright. Golden future, a brand new life. Feast and dance, the deal is done. Trump Gaza, #1. Trump Gaza shining bright. Golden future, a brand new life.
Yeah, I mean, it's an AI thing making Gaza look like Monte Carlo or...
with a gold statue of Trump in a way that you have with dictators in one of the stands. I mean, the thing is just grotesque, to be honest with you.
But he hasn't done this himself, has he? This is someone's created it.
Oh, no, but he's approved it. He's approved it.
Yeah. He's reposted it, hasn't he?
Let's be quite clear. You're talking about Gaza, which is Palestinian land, and he's talking about evicting 2 million Palestinians and sending them somewhere else, wherever that happens to be. That is actually a war crime to evict people like that.
Yeah. Well, it's not very well thought through.
It didn't go down well on social media yesterday. I mean, even fans of President Trump, they were like, we voted for you, but this is distasteful. I mean, it's a graveyard.
Yeah, I think it's way too far.
Especially
way too soon. There's obviously no conclusion to even the hostage exchanges happening. Obviously, the deaths of many people are still being discussed. I think this is, to put something out like that is in very bad taste, in my opinion. But, I think it is Trump, though, isn't it? This is what you expect to see from Donald Trump. I don't know. I wasn't surprised that he put it out. No. He's been retweeting other AI-generated images of him. Elon Musk retweets similar sort of stuff. So I think this is stuff we should get used to seeing.
Yeah, but it's the sort of thing where you don't have to take it seriously.
Yeah, I certainly don't think people will be.
I don't think it's going to happen.
I hope they won't.
Norman, can we have a look at this? I know it's like a totally weird story. However, the Daily Star looking at oddballs and their pancakes.
Oh, yeah.
We are approaching Shrove Tuesday.
It's next Tuesday is Shrove Tuesday.
Favourite day of the year.
Is it your favourite day of the year?
I do love pancake day.
I love pancakes generally, to be honest with you. And I particularly love pancakes where you put lemon on, very traditional. But apparently...
Without sugar?
Without sugar, actually, just lemon for me.
Very healthy, Norman.
Well, they're not very healthy, but healthier without sugar. However, according to the Daily Star, and of course the Daily Star is always reliable for its news, people are finding all sorts of odd things to put on pancakes, like Marmite.
What? That I can live with.
Garlic.
No.
Sardines. Sardines you might get away with.
Sardines?
Peanut butter.
Yeah, OK, peanut butter, I can see, yeah.
And strawberry and cream cheese. Another one here.
Oh, that sounds good.
Tartare sauce.
No.
What, just on its own?
What? Tartar sauce?
Yeah, well, somebody likes it, clearly.
Who are these people experimenting with sardines on their pancakes?
Gross.
What are you going to have on your pancakes?
I'm a traditionalist. I'm with you. So lemon and sugar, or if I'm treating myself, Nutella and banana. Other chocolate spreads are available.
Yeah, if I've got the time to faff about, I like cheese and spinach. I like
He's
a
that's all right.
pancake.
Yeah, savoury
I
pancakes.
can see that. I like a bit of savoury, but I'm one of those people. I've got a sweet tooth, so it's just chuck on the chocolate, syrup, sugar, whatever it is. Something really sugary.
Why you're so overweight.
Yeah, clearly.
You got thin pancakes. I don't like fat pancakes.
Yeah, like a crepe.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That you can roll.
Yeah.
Way better than a thick pancake, I think. Would you all make your own pancakes on Shrove Tuesday?
I'm all right at pancakes.
Well, I wouldn't attempt it myself. I can barely cook toast, so...
Really?
Yeah, seriously.
It's so fun on Shrove Tuesday.
with Shrove Tuesday happening, and then we've got some blooms appearing on the trees.
Oh, we do.
Spring has sprung, according to the Sun.
Now, this might be a bit premature, but my eyes started itching and I get terrible, terrible hay fever every single year. And I was like, hey, is this a sign of an early spring? But this story here may have backed me up a little bit. So, tree watchers... This is a phrase I've never heard.
Tree watchers.
I've never heard this. Yeah. Quite an interesting job. They're saying springs come early. So there's a tradition where these magnolia trees blossom. 50 of them apparently blossomed. And they're saying locals in Cornwall claim that the season arrives when this tree of great country in the great gardens of bloom. Apparently, and these magnolia trees have bloomed.
My magnolia's budding.
Is it?
There you go.
Does that bring you joy?
It does bring me joy when I'm in the trees.
Would you call yourself a tree watcher?
Yeah, why not?
You like nature?
I'd hug them.
Yeah, would you really?
He loves nature.
Isn't it the first cuckoo of spring you're supposed to measure things by when you hear cuckoos?
Well,
when you hear cuckoos?
I thought it was
cuckoos,
daffodils.
yeah.
Oh, cuckoos. Yeah. I've got daffodils on my front drive. I've got a little, what would you call it, an edge? It's not really a front garden, just like a little patch. And there's daffodils there, and that brought me joy yesterday. But spring is coming.
The weather's looking up.
It's the little things. It does feel slightly more springy at the moment, and that's a relief, frankly, after everything we've been through. Right, you two. We'll see you a little bit later on. Yep. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. Let's get a check on the weather now with Honor.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. A fine and settled day ahead. Lots of dry weather, lots of sunny spells, though we can't rule out a few occasional coastal showers, particularly around North Sea coasts. So East Anglia, for example, may see a slightly cloudier day on offer. Some showers moving through here too, and a little bit breezy at times. And across the northwest, can't rule out a few showers moving through here as well. The odd one may be a little bit heavy with some hail and thunder, but for the majority of the country, a dry day on offer, bright and even some sunshine poking through at times too, and highs of around 10, possibly 11 Celsius across the south, so feeling pleasant where you do catch the sunnier spells. As we head through into the evening across Scotland, still a few showers moving through here. Still, once again, could be a little bit heavy, perhaps even bringing the odd sprinkling of snow across the Scottish Highlands. A few showers just clipping coasts of Northern Ireland too, but elsewhere, northern parts of England should see a dry end to the day, and fairly similar across Wales, central parts of England and parts of the south. A dry end to the day, perhaps still some cloud lingering across East Anglia with the odd shower moving through here too. But then through into the overnight period with high pressure building, so that's going to ease away any showers. That's away from the northwest though, where they might continue for a time. But under clear skies, that means temperatures are soon going to dip away, and it's likely that we'll actually see quite a widespread frost by Friday morning, the last day of meteorological winter, and even towns and cities just about above freezing, but many rural spots likely to see quite a chilly start to the day with that patchy frost, possibly even some fog patches to start the day too. Things will eventually warm up and any fog will clear, and once again another dry day on offer, much brighter across parts of the southeast where we'll see a little bit of the cloud today. Lots of dry weather, lots of sunshine. That sunshine turning hazier though across the northwest as we see next frontal system moving through. Once again highs of around 10 to 11 Celsius, so once again feeling pleasant in the sunshine.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In the Highland, the A887 is closed in both directions for emergency repairs between the A87 at the Invergarry turnoff and the A82 at Invermorriston. The M65 in Lancashire is closed westbound from junction 14 at the Boundary Mill roundabout to 10 at Burnley after an accident yesterday evening. There are some cancelled Stena Line sailings between Holyhead and Dublin because of a technical problem. Buses replaced trains between Ebervale Town and Newport because of an incident. On the M4 in Cardiff, there's a lane closed on the westbound entry slip road at junction 32 from the A470 Corriton interchange after an accident causing queues. On the M4 in Berkshire, there's a lane closed eastbound where someone's broken down between junctions 8, 9 and 7 from Maidenhead to Slough. And in East Sussex, the A259 remains closed along Grand Junction Road in Brighton because of an unsafe building. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
There's just 2 weeks left to grab your chance to be one of 2 big winners in our latest Great British giveaway. First, you'll win a totally tax-free £10,000 in cash to spend however you like. You'll also receive the very latest iPhone 16 and we'll send you on a shopping spree with £500 to spend in your favourite store. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. Sir Keir Starmer arrives in Washington for crunch talks with Donald Trump.
On the agenda, impending tariffs, a Western alliance in jeopardy, and Vladimir Putin.
It all comes as the Prime Minister downplays the growing tension between the two sides, insisting he can trust Trump.
Meanwhile, the US president says Kyiv will have to make concessions when it comes to NATO membership.
NATO you can forget about. I think that's probably the reason the whole thing started.
Well, the Foreign Secretary David Lammy says the Chagos deal is off if President Trump rejects the agreement. Here's what Conservative heavyweight Robert Jenrick had to say.
If our own leaders are so weak and feckless that they want to do this, then yes, I would love to have, President Trump to step in and end this farce. But it shouldn't have to come to that, should it? No.
Residents in Wethersfield are up in arms as the village is said to be outnumbered by asylum seekers. Charlie Peters is there for us.
Good morning. This small village in Essex has a population of just 700. But under Home Office plans, the number of asylum seekers at this base behind me could soon surge to over 800. We'll be speaking to locals as fresh immigration data is released.
Prince William and Princess Catherine try their hand at Welsh cake making during a visit to the country in honour of St David's Day on Saturday.
Gary Lineker hits out at the BBC after it removed a documentary deemed to be pro-Hamas.
And some experts say Labour's private school tax is threatening British rugby. So is it really killing our traditions?
We'll also be joined by winners of the prestigious National Fish and Chip Awards later this morning, and hopefully they're bringing some of their fish and chips for us to try.
Yeah, let's hope so. Anyway, Manchester United boss Ruben Amorim will deal with an act of petulance last night by Alejandro Garnacho. His predecessor, Eric Ten Hag, meanwhile, has some choice words for the modern generation of players. And in boxing, feuding stars Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn will be kept apart at tonight's press conference at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium.
Hello there, good morning. A fine, dry and settled day ahead. Plenty of sunshine, though a few showers in places. To find out where, stay tuned and I'll be here with all the details.
Good morning, it's just gone 8 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
I'm Ellie Costello and this is GB News Breakfast.
You got some fun facts?
Yeah, the Princess of Wales has inadvertently started jam wars with Meghan Markle. This is on the front page of The Sun this morning. She was in Wales yesterday, celebrating St David's Day early, and her and the Prince of Wales, they made Welsh cakes, which is apparently like a scone. No, I haven't had
the
one.
texture looks like that.
A little bit like that, yeah. But she told a young fan while she was there that she loves making plum jam. And then she offered to give her recipe to this young royal fan for free.
Wow.
Now, of course, Meghan Markle is selling jam over in Los Angeles.
Is she doing plums?
Now, she might be. So it's now...
Can you imagine?
Oh, it's strawberry jam from Meghan Markle. So, yes, jar wars is what The Sun is leading
Great
today.
headline.
Very good.
Great headline. Oh, dear, that'll step on a few toes, won't it?
It will, yeah.
Kate won't be... Catherine won't be selling hers, though, will she?
No, she'll say her. She's giving it away for free, being very charitable.
Very nice.
With her jam recipe. But Meghan Markle is, of course, trying to make money on it with her new company. What's it called now?
As Ever.
As Ever, that's it. It was American Riviera Orchard. It's now As Ever. As Ever Jams. Anyway. Let us know what you think about that one. gbnews.com/you'll say.
World's gone mad.
I know.
World's gone mad. Right, it's 4 minutes past 8. The Prime Minister has flown 3,000 miles across the Atlantic for a meeting with President Trump in Washington, D.C. today.
While speaking to reporters, he dismissed growing tensions between the US and Europe and insists that the special relationship must go from strength to strength.
Our political editor, Chris Hope, has the latest from Washington.
Sir Keir Starmer touched down in Washington, D.C. last night for what will be today the most consequential meeting of his 7 months as Prime Minister. He meets with Donald Trump, of course, in the Oval Office, a key meeting with the fate of Ukraine hanging in the balance and the future of any peace deal which might be agreed between Ukraine and Russia. On the flight over, Sir Keir Starmer told us in no uncertain terms that it was vital Donald Trump agreed to underwrite any security deal after any peace deal is signed with Russia, between Russia and Ukraine. He made clear the security guarantee was important in case Putin came again after any peace deal was signed. And he said the UK was looking at putting in UK troops to help enforce that peace deal. To get ready for that commitment, Sir Keir Starmer has taken a major step for a Labour Prime Minister. He's cut foreign aid budget to spend on defence. But all hangs in a balance here in Washington, D.C. Will Trump agree to a European security pact to ensure that peace in Ukraine?
Well, as Christopher Hope mentioned, it's expected that Sir Keir Starmer will push the president to provide a backstop against further Russian aggression in Ukraine. Well, the problem? Trump isn't sold.
I'm not going to make security guarantees beyond very much. We're going to have Europe do that because it's in, we're talking about Europe as the next door neighbor. European Union's it was formed in order to screw the United States. I mean, look, let's be honest. The European Union was formed in order to screw the United States. That's the purpose of it. And they've done a good job of it, but now I'm president.
What concessions would you like to see? What concessions would you like to see?
Oh, I don't want to tell right now, but I can tell you that NATO you can forget about. I think that's probably the reason the whole thing started.
Well, let's talk to Deputy Political Editor of the Mail on Sunday, Anna Mikhailova. Good to see you.
Good morning.
This morning.
Morning.
This is going to be quite a tightrope for Keir Starmer, isn't it? He's got to play this very carefully.
Absolutely. I think the key for him today is going to be to make clear to Donald Trump that securing Europe's security, whether it's a backstop or whether it's just continuing to be involved as the US has been, is within America's interests. So that is Donald Trump's language. It's America first. There's no point pretending otherwise. So the argument he needs to be making is that a secure Europe benefits the US.
And how does Sir Keir Starmer go about persuading him round to that idea? How do you think Donald Trump would best respond? Would he like an assertive strongman to meet him in Washington, or would he be better with a pally-pally, lots of handshakes and tactile nature?
Well,
we saw with Macron on Monday.
He's 100% going to have to be very nice to him. There's absolutely no point trying to talk down to him, not least because, frankly, he's the American president. Even without Donald Trump's personality added on, you don't really talk down by definition to someone who is much more powerful than you in the room. So that dynamic, frankly, has always been there when British Prime Ministers go out and meet American presidents. There's no point pretending otherwise. But with Donald Trump, what it's added on is an extra layer of the fact that he is just not a normal politician. You can never predict what he's going to do in this meeting, or any meeting for that matter, or any press conference, frankly. And I think the biggest mistake that Keir Starmer could make would be to try and talk down to him, try and patronise him, lecture him, or essentially offend him in some way, which is it's a very difficult task when you are dealing with someone pretty mercurial.
It's a strange situation in that, I mean, what is happening, what we've had announced this week, I think most people would applaud. We're having an increase in the defence budget, and we've got a timetable for that to get to 2.5% now. What was the other issue I was going to think of? Oh, Chagos Islands may be going. The whole deal may be out the window, which are all things people would sort of celebrate. A cut in the aid budget, which, frankly, a lot of people are in favour of at the moment, the way things are. And yet it's not been our decision, has it? In effect, it's all come because of pressure from the White House.
That's true. And I think one argument could be why do we constantly wait for that kind of pressure? But then, at the end of the day, this is why Donald Trump is, in his own way, very effective. He has been able to completely rewrite the rules of geopolitics within, just over a month. And you know, some of these decisions definitely needed to have been made, and the government was dragging its feet. 2.5%, you know, even in the election campaign, everyone knew it had to go up. It was just a case of when, and bringing the timetable forward is absolutely the correct decision.
Donald Trump speaking yesterday, talking about 25% tariffs on the European Union, and also speaking about the European Union, saying it was created to screw over the US, which he says they've successfully done. Do you think that this is a Brexit benefit for the UK in the sense that we could avoid these tariffs, or do you think we could still have them lingering over our heads?
It is absolutely a Brexit benefit to not be able to not have to be lumped in with the EU, to not have to automatically follow its tariff policy, just as we saw with the vaccines and COVID. This is probably the biggest Brexit benefit so far we've seen. But the reality, of course, of economics is everyone is very intertwined. So it is equally incorrect to think that tariffs on the EU wouldn't affect the UK. It would still hurt the UK industry. But it certainly gives Keir Starmer a bit more wiggle room, a bit more, an easier, well, it's still a difficult position, but an easier position than if he was just a member of the EU, which Donald Trump quite clearly really, really dislikes.
Yeah. Is the Chagos deal dead in the water now, do you think? Because, I mean, even with the context of, we've heard of the increased defence spending, unless we pull out the Chagos deal, all that money is being sucked up to maintain the status quo.
Yeah, I mean, the government basically hasn't denied that some of the new defence money will go to Chagos. They haven't. I mean, it is an extraordinary own goal, frankly, in the week where you've done something positive, you've done what everyone has been asking for, and it's overshadowed by these questions that they haven't been able to fend off of whether or not it's going to this very, very controversial Chagos agreement, and very expensive one at that. The development was obviously David Lammy last night said that Donald Trump has effectively a veto on whether Chagos goes ahead. Now, it will probably be part of the conversation today, and we do know that the people around Donald Trump, the MAGA crowd, they really, really do not think this is a good deal. So it doesn't sound like it is that likely to go ahead, but equally there is a US base there, so the US has an interest as well. Maybe they'll have their own suggestions.
Anna Mikulova, good to see you this morning. Thank you very much. Well, let us know what you think about that one, gbnews.com/your say. It also leads into our poll of the day. Today we are asking, will the special relationship flourish between Sir Keir Starmer and Donald Trump? You can get involved by scanning the QR code on your screens, or you can go to gbnews.com/poll. As always, the final results will be announced in Martin Daubney's show later.
Now, residents of a quiet, beautiful village in Wethersfield fear they could soon be outnumbered by asylum seekers.
Yes, the village is home to 707 people, with migrants housed at a nearby former RAF airfield expected to increase to 800.
Well, locals say they no longer feel safe walking down their own country lanes at night.
Well, it comes as immigration system statistics are due to be released later on this morning.
Well, let's head to our national news reporter, Charlie Peters, who's in Weatherfield for us this morning. Hi, Charlie.
Good morning to you both. Yes, in Wethersfield today, there is concern about how this quaint village of, as you say, 707 could soon be outnumbered by asylum seekers living on a converted RAF camp, also being used by the MOD police, which is housing, we're told, approximately 550 people at the moment, but that could soon surge, the rumour is, to over 800. And we've heard some local concerns in the last week or so on GB News, some local residents, about what that has meant for them and what it could mean when that population grows. And I want to bring you one of those voices now, because we're joined by Tony Clark-Holland, who is a local resident living very close to this camp. Tony, what has been the main concern for you and those around you when you see this rumour of this expected rise?
Well, I mean, there's a number of concerns. The concerns are twofold. One is for the asylum seekers over there. We don't think this is the right place to house people anyway. It's not fit for purpose. And we're talking there about the infrastructure, the services, even simple things like water and sewage. But also for us as a local community, of course there's a concern. I mean, it's been like a war of attrition. We've had 2 years of this now. And it feeds into people's psyche. And if you talk to a number of people, particularly ladies, they're concerned, and there's certain feelings of intimidation if they come across sort of large groups of people, as there would be if they come across, you know, large groups of any sort of male contingent.
And Tony, you live just a stone's throw away from this camp. What experiences have you had when you've been here and you've seen people leaving the camp, loitering around near your area? What's that experience been like?
I think the reality is it's become our norm now, and it never was. It's so far away from the area that we knew, which was very quiet. I mean, I'm talking to you today. That would never have happened. It's nice, but I wish I wasn't. We've drawn a lot of attention. The people that come out, you don't know who they are. There are local neighbours to me that are concerned if they're walking their dog, they'll turn around and go home. And that's tough for people to deal with on a daily basis, isn't it?
You've lived here for over 25 years. A great sense of community in Wethersfield, in Essex. Have you felt as though that sense of closeness among neighbours has been affected? Have there been rows over this political issue?
Yeah, I'd liken it to the Brexit debate, really, where, you know, it fractured families in some cases. And I think that's the same here. I think there's an undertone of you don't quite want to come out on one side or the other. If you're willing to help people in the base, and many local people do, you know, they go and do English lessons and that sort of thing, feel they're doing the right thing and a nice thing, then you could come under attack if you actually, you know, said you were doing that. By the same token, if you thought, we don't want them here, you know, go away, then you come under attack for that. So it's a no-win, and it definitely has fractured the community, and that's something you can't really sort of explain, to be honest with you. It's just a feeling, and it grows over a period of time, and it becomes weary.
Well, Tony, thank you so much for your time this morning. As you've heard there, Ellie and Stephen, it's a fractured community as they adapt to the arrival of many more hundreds of asylum seekers here in Wethersfield. But the Labour government, Sir Keir Starmer and Home Secretary Yvette Cooper, they say that their Border Security Command and other measures they're taking to clear the asylum backlog will deal with a tragic situation they inherited. But here in Wethersfield so far, those locals aren't feeling the effects of those steps being taken by the government.
Okay. Charlie, good to see you. Thank you very much.
You can absolutely understand people's concern, and this is what I get very annoyed about, when people have a concern that their community is being fundamentally changed, and yet people can be then accused of being racist or intolerant, but when your entire infrastructure and community is changing rapidly and you have no say in it, well, of course you're going to be uncomfortable with that at best.
Yeah, and you feel for the women as well. I mean, the point being made by Charlie's guests there, I mean, women and young girls feeling unsafe, feeling potentially threatened, as they would by any large group of men. Very, very difficult, especially in such a small village. As Charlie was saying, only 700 people living there, 800 asylum seekers. I mean, essentially outnumbered. Very difficult.
Yes. Yeah, it is difficult. I'm sure you'll have some views on that. 17 minutes past 8. Let's have a look at some of the other key stories this morning.
Andrew and Tristan Tate have reportedly left Romania early this morning by private jet, heading towards the US. 3 years ago, the brothers were arrested on allegations of rape, human trafficking and money laundering, claims they have always denied. Previously, they were banned from leaving the country, but now that ban appears to have lifted.
The Metropolitan Police has revealed a new charter for stop and search powers to increase transparency. According to the force, 8,000 Londoners from all ethnicities and backgrounds have been involved in this. Stop and search has often been considered contentious due to issues with racial disparity.
Gary Lineker has joined more than 500 other media professionals to hit out at the BBC after it removed a documentary deemed to be pro-Hamas. In an open letter, the signatories criticised the decision, dubbing it politically motivated censorship. Last week, the corporation apologised after it emerged that one of the child protagonists in the documentary was found to be the son of a Hamas leader.
The jailed MP, Mike Amesbury, will return to court later this week to appeal his 10-week prison sentence for punching a man in the street. The Runcorn and Helsby MP, who is now an independent, been kicked out of the Labour Party, had previously applied for bail, but that was refused. He's facing calls from the Home Secretary to resign. I really don't think you can be punching people as an MP and convicted of that and imprisoned and still sit.
Still be an MP. You think morally you would want to resign as a public servant?
I mean, he's appealing the sentence, not the conviction. So, really? I know there is a recall petition now. When there's a custodial sentence, there will be a recall petition. So he might get booted out anyway. But yes, so from a moral position, it just doesn't seem right, does it?
Do the rules need to change regarding that then? Because at the moment, unless you're sentenced to, I think it's 12 months in prison, you're not automatically removed as an MP.
I think so.
I mean, you think any...
I think any custodial
sentence you should
be out.
That's what we think. Let's have a check on the weather, shall we, with Honor.
Despite the morning rain, it'll be a nice, warm, cosy day ahead. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. A fine and settled day ahead. Lots of dry weather, lots of sunny spells, though we can't rule out a few occasional coastal showers, particularly around North Sea coasts. So East Anglia, for example, may see a slightly cloudier day on offer. Some showers moving through here too, and a little bit breezy at times. And across the northwest, can't rule out a few showers moving through here as well. The odd one may be a little bit heavy with some hail and thunder, but for the majority of the country, a dry day on offer, bright and even some sunshine poking through at times too, and highs of around 10, possibly 11 Celsius across the south, so feeling pleasant where you do catch the sunnier spells. As we head through into the evening across Scotland, still a few showers moving through here. Still, once again, could be a little bit heavy, perhaps even bringing the odd sprinkling of snow across the Scottish Highlands. A few showers just clipping coasts of Northern Ireland too, but elsewhere, northern parts of England should see a dry end to the day, and fairly similar across Wales, central parts of England and parts of the south. A dry end to the day, perhaps still some cloud lingering across East Anglia with the odd shower moving through here too. But then through into the overnight period with high pressure building, so that's going to ease away any showers. That's away from the northwest, though, where they might continue for a time. But under clear skies, that means temperatures are soon going to dip away, and it's likely that we'll actually see quite a widespread frost by Friday morning, the last day of meteorological winter, and even towns and cities just about above freezing, but many rural spots likely to see quite a chilly start to the day with that patchy frost, possibly even some fog patches to start the day too. Things will eventually warm up and any fog will clear, and once again another dry day on offer, much brighter across parts of the southeast where we'll see a little bit of the cloud today. Lots of dry weather, lots of sunshine. That sunshine turning hazier though across the northwest as we see next frontal system moving through. Once again highs of around 10 to 11 Celsius, so once again feeling pleasant in the sunshine.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Time for the Great British Giveaway now. If you want to be one of 2 new winners, you could each walk away with an iPhone, shopping vouchers and £10,000 in tax-free cash. If you fancy a bit of that, here's how you enter.
Don't miss your chance to be one of 2 big winners in our latest Great British Giveaway, as we have 2 prize bundles that have to be won. There's 2 lots of a totally tax-free £10,000 in cash. You'll also receive a brand new iPhone 16, along with £500 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite store. Hurry, lines close on the 7th of March. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. 1 entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Ellie needs that money, actually. If you win, please give it to Ellie Costello, because to feed her food addiction...
Yeah, it's really bad.
She's getting obsessed with certain foods from certain supermarkets, aren't you?
Which we can't say, but it's a very expensive breakfast item that I buy. It's turning into an everyday addiction. So I need to start making it at home, but I've just looked up the ingredients and it's going to cost me about 10 grand to make, so never mind. Oh, look, that would be very good on the giveaway, wouldn't it? Yeah. I can't enter, though. But you can, so maybe you can do it.
So 10 grand, you make your own breakfast for a month instead of buying it from the supermarket.
Anyway, talking about food, we're going to be meeting the winners of the prestigious National Fish and Chip Awards. We can't wait for this. Very excited. That's up next.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
A new study has found that almost 8 in 10 of Gen Z Brits believe that the romantic poems of Shakespeare, Keats, Barrett Browning and the rest are outdated and irrelevant. Can we re-engage youngsters with such verse? Can the Gen Z audience become infatuated with love poetry? Joining me now is the Professor and Chair of English at the University of Virginia, Andrew Stauffer. Andrew, welcome to GB News. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Michael. Thank you for having me.
What is it that a poet does with language and in love, with language and with love, to express love better than any other way in which it can be expressed?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, it is, it's relying on language as being the primary way that we get in touch with our feelings, that, poetry is the language art par excellence. And so it's the assumption that the more we can use our words to talk about our feelings, the deeper, more pleasurable, more available those feelings actually are to us. And so in a certain way, reading poetry, not only we recognize our feelings, we even catch feelings from art, from poems, from songs, from stories. There's a way that even our own most personal relationships are structured by the culture that we have grown up in and that we've been immersed in. And so it really can be an aid, or at least a transformative experience to encounter language, to give yourself words for your own very private feelings that turns out have been felt by other people going all the way back to Sappho and Catullus and Horace and through Shakespeare and through the whole English tradition. So that can be galvanizing as well, really kind of eye-opening to know that you're not alone in your feelings.
GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Now, it's one of our greatest culinary traditions, fish and chips. And the winners of the competition for the UK's best fish and chip shops, restaurants and fryers have been announced.
Well, takeaway of the year went to dad and son duo Graham and Will Burrell from Yarm Road Fish and Chips in Darlington, while restaurant of the year went to Bell's Fish and Chips in Durham.
And they're all here, along with the president of the National Federation of Fish Fryers, who you will recognise from this show, Andrew Cook. Good to see you all. Gents, I mean, Graham and Will, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I mean, we all love going for a bag of chips, don't we?
Absolutely.
What makes yours the best?
For us, it's been consistency from the start. We set out, we knew what we wanted to do. We buy the very best products money can buy. We have our processes in place and we make sure we stick to that. So the customers know every time they come through the door.
They know what they're getting.
Customer service is going to be bang on, the food's going to be bang on.
Customer service is so true, isn't it? Because you know when you go to a good fish and chippy, you are going to get the best service, friendly smiles behind the counter, big portions, generosity.
Absolutely.
It just comes part and parcel, doesn't it, with getting a chippy takeaway?
Yeah. Of course it does.
Customer service is important. It's something we try and champion all the time, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And you must have been doing it a long time, Graham, if you've been at it long enough to get your son involved.
My wife and I set away in 1998 when Will was 3-year-old, so he's seen it from conception, really, and then is more or less at the helm now, so it's taking over and doing a grand job, obviously.
Obviously.
Yes.
And you've got a loyal customer base, I'm sure.
Fabulous customer base.
Lovely.
Fabulous team of staff, who obviously we couldn't have done it without them. So.
No.
Yeah, we're thrilled.
Oh, fabulous stuff. And Graham, you won Restaurant of the Year. You're at Bell's Fish and Chips in Durham.
Yeah.
Great spot up there in Durham.
Yeah, it's lovely. We're right in the city centre on the market square. You got to pass us to go to the cathedral.
That's what you need.
Yeah.
That's what you need for the tourists.
Yes.
Is it a different... I mean, I have to say, I don't know many fish and chip restaurants, but actually sort of go in and grab a seat and...
Yeah, we've done it as a restaurant rather than like a greasy spoon type, so it is a proper served restaurant.
Right.
We're all licensed as well, so we've gone up market to improve the image of fish and chips.
Was that a gamble?
Yes, big gamble. We spent a lot of money. We spent a lot of money doing what we've done, but it has worked.
Well, clearly it's paid off, hasn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. What's your most popular meal in the restaurant?
Cod and chips.
Cod and
mushy
chips.
peas.
Peas.
Yeah.
Curry sauce, that a popular one?
Yeah, very popular. Becoming more popular as well. But homemade mushy peas and fish and chips, can't beat it.
I have to say, it's interesting when you say about the staff. I mean, particularly in a takeaway, you'll have the nice menus set out and everything available.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been to one recently that I'd not been in before. Fish, chips, peas and gravy. And the girl looked at me like I'd gone mad. And didn't get it.
It's so regional. It really is so regional, yeah. You get people from Lancashire, they want a completely different thing from someone from Yorkshire.
Yeah. Isn't that funny? I wonder why that is.
Who knows?
It's a regional thing.
Yeah.
But if you came to us and you wanted that, that's what you'd get.
Oh, good man. Good man.
Yeah.
Talking about regional differences, apparently a saveloy is a southern thing. Is that true?
Yes, yeah,
definitely.
So if I walked into your chippy in Durham and said, can I have a saveloy and chips, you'd say, what is that?
What's that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, isn't it funny? I'll tell you what, Andrew, and others, I mean, we've talked to you a lot over the last few years about the state of chippies up and down the country. This is fascinating because it shows what enthusiasm we still have for the good old chippy, whether it's a takeaway or a restaurant, and yet, they are struggling, aren't they?
Very much so. It's a tough time for small businesses, and I think fish and chips is
something that's still great value if you compare it to other meals. But it's part of the national heritage, and I think government really need to look at what they're doing for small businesses, because we feel the pressure more than anybody. And what's coming in April with the budget, it's really going to affect us. So
and energy bills up?
Well, everything's expensive, and it's more and more expensive to run a business, but we're still great value, and it's still a great meal. We've got great people in the industry like these, and we've got a strong future, so we just need that help.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, well, congratulations to all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lovely to see you all. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
I am actually sitting here thinking, I'm going to get chips tonight.
Do you know what? This always
got to
happens.
do it, mate.
We talk about chips on the show, and then you just have to go home and get yourself bagged, don't you? But thank you. Congratulations, all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next time I'm in Darlington.
Absolutely.
Yes. Coming round.
Absolutely. We'll see you there.
Gents, thanks very much indeed. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
Now, some breaking news this morning. The Hollywood actor Gene Hackman has been found dead in his home alongside his wife, Betsy Arakawa.
Yeah, police in Santa Fe said they were found dead alongside their dog. No signs of foul play. No cause of death has been provided at this stage. 95 years old was Gene, born in 1930. There's a lot of questions around this. Have they decided to go together? I don't know. It's a little bit unusual, isn't it? But they have been found together with no signs of foul play. A Hollywood legend, of course, Gene Hackman. But obviously this has got a little bit of mystery surrounding it. But if we get any more information from police in Santa Fe, we'll let you know.
Do stay with us. We'll be back in just a few moments with Aidan McGee going through all of the latest sports.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. On the M8 in Renfrewshire, there's a lane closed eastbound after an accident between junctions 27 and 26 from Paisley to Hillington, with queues back beyond junction 29. At St James, the M65 in Lancashire is closed westbound from junction 14 at the Boundary Mill roundabout to 10 at Burnley after an accident yesterday evening. Long delays as you divert. On the M60 in Greater Manchester, 2 lanes are closed anti-clockwise after an accident between junctions 13 and 12 from Worsley to the Eccles interchange, with queues back to junction 19 of the M62 at Hayward. Buses replaced trains between Ebervale Town and Rogerstone because of an incident. On the M4 in Cardiff, there's a lane closed because of an accident on the westbound exit at junction 32 at the Corriton interchange. And the M27 in Hampshire is partly blocked eastbound just after junction 11 at Fareham, causing queues. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. Maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Aidan's got the sport for you at 8:36. Good morning, good morning. What's up with these young football players who can't take criticism?
No, they can't. I mean, it's kind of related what I'm about to talk about, but Alejandro Garnacho was substituted shortly after half-time yesterday. They'd had a player sent off, Manchester United, and Ruben Amorim said afterwards it was tactical. Nonetheless, he kind of stormed off the pitch and went straight to the tunnel. Amorim he said he was going to speak to him afterwards, but he said that it was a cold night, it was a rainy night. Maybe he just wanted to go to the dressing room and get changed, get rid of his shirts and all the rest of it. And we remember Cristiano Ronaldo doing it a couple of years ago with Erik ten Hag. Now, as I said, he's going to deal with it afterwards. It's not a massive issue for United given the other problems they have. But it was interesting because his predecessor, Erik ten Hag, remember him?
We do.
You've handed him out of a job for about 6 months, as I recall.
Oh, don't blame me.
You blame the results. Well, he gave an interview to some kind of forum yesterday through his management team, and he said that the younger generation of players are just a little bit more sensitive. I'll read you the quote. I found it quite interesting. He said, "The generation that I grew up in had much thicker skin. You can be much more direct. I was approached much more directly. If I did that with my current group of players, I would demotivate them. If you do that to the current generation, they find it offensive." Now,
he's right, isn't he?
Well, look, to be fair, Ellie, lots of sports people of a certain age, the ones who are now in managerial roles, now in senior positions, would say exactly the same thing. What I always say in response is that generation, maybe not so much the younger period, the younger element of that generation, the ones in their kind of below the age of 35, but the ones sort of 40 upwards, they didn't really grow up with that generation of social media criticism, where they can look at their phone all day and all night and just be taken pot shots at by anonymous accounts. Online hate, you might call it. That generation didn't have to deal with that. I think that nowadays, that's hard to deal with. Now, you can say, look, you don't have to be on social media, you don't have to participate. Some players don't, some sports people don't. But I think that's an element that sometimes the older generation don't consider that they didn't have to deal with. But nonetheless, some interesting comments from Erik ten Hag. And good to see him back in front of the cameras as well, because despite the failure at Manchester United, he seems a decent guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Should we have a bit of boxing?
Yeah, because I don't know. We chatted about it in the break, didn't we?
Yeah.
You're going to laugh at this, but I mean, look, we're used to the histrionics of weigh-ins or face-offs or whatever, right? And a lot of it's
more exciting than the match after.
Well, it is, especially when it finishes in 2 rounds, but as it did last week for Joseph Parker. But as I say, we're used to... a lot of it's contrived, let's be honest with you. You know, with loads of security personnel in between these boxes. I mean, those boxers could clear out those security guys anyway, let's be honest. But for somebody to bring an object into the face-off, and you said it was only an egg. It is only an egg. Yeah, but it's sharp. The shells are sharp.
Oh, give up.
Look, what if that had made a mark on Conor Benn's face?
Oh, dear.
And it left him cut. I mean, look, we can see it there for the benefit of our radio listeners. We can see the egg about to go on the face, coming from the left. Now, he's really disguised this as well. It's quite a cheat manoeuvre. There you go.
Oh, there he goes.
Look at that. See, that could hurt. And there's a fight in... Well, I mean, all right, it's in another 2 months' time, so it's probably going to heal. But I just felt that was quite a low blow. And tonight, at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, they're going to be kept apart. And you could say to me, yeah, OK, but isn't this just playing into all the narrative, all the build-up, all the hype?
It's an egg.
They're both a pair of eggs, if you
I
ask
think
me.
it looks like it's all set up, to be honest.
Do you reckon?
I think that was pretty...
I don't know. I think when they were... Look at all those security... I mean, I'm falling... I'm falling for all the nonsense, aren't I?
Maybe you are.
I mean, it is all part of the show, and is it a good thing to do? No, probably not. But it's an egg. I mean, you get parents cracking heads on their kids' heads on Instagram. It's like
it's to boost protein, isn't it? In the head?
I don't know.
There are other ways of doing that, but I mean, they're being kept apart tonight, and I just have never known. I've never known a situation where someone's brought a different object into a face-off or a weigh-in and used it on an opponent. But as Ellie said, it may be set up. Who knows?
Yeah. OK. Aidan, thank you very much indeed.
See you tomorrow.
Good to see you.
Just a reminder of that breaking news we've had in the past few minutes. The Oscar-winning Hollywood actor Gene Hackman has been found dead in his home alongside his wife. Police in Santa Fe say they were found dead alongside their dog, adding that there was no signs of foul play. They didn't provide a cause of death when they were asked about it by local media.
Yeah, the 95-year-old, best known perhaps as Buck Barrow in Bonnie and Clyde, Lex Luthor in the Superman movies, of course, the classic Superman movies. But, I mean, an absolute Hollywood legend, 95 years old. It does leave a lot of questions. nothing suspicious so much that the police are saying. But some of you messaging saying, well, could it be carbon monoxide? Something like that. There's so many possibilities in all of this. The police will be fully investigating exactly what's gone on, but it's...
such a loss.
Well, it is a loss, but also a very good age. It was a very good age, but let's hope this doesn't have a more sinister side to it.
Yeah. Well, of course, we'll bring you any more information as we have it here at GB News.
Right, now, shall we see, just to change tack, if you want a bit of winter sun, here's the forecast for the top European holiday destinations.
I hope it doesn't rain.
Don't worry about it.
It'll spoil our holiday.
Relax, we're totally covered.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Heavy outbreaks of rain affecting western parts of the Mediterranean and improving temperatures across Greece, where they have been below average over the last few days. So some heavy outbreaks of rain, some heavy showers affecting Madeira, also parts of Lisbon and parts of Gibraltar at times. As we move towards the central Mediterranean, largely settled, lots of dry weather and some sunny spells. And although temperatures are improving across Greece, there are going to be some heavy showers at times, largely dry and settled into the weekend, with the best of the temperatures across Tenerife.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain's Newsroom, weekday mornings from 9:30.
So many people I know this applies to. We are terrified of driving in that because you're literally getting blinded now. What's going on here?
You are. I'm going to be a little bit contentious, though, and say that bright headlights have actually come about in order to make roads safer. Because if, like me, you've had experience of driving older cars, you'll know just how appalling the older style headlights can be. And in fact, you can't actually see very clearly the road ahead. So the new xenon and LED headlight technology actually stemmed from a racing background when cars were racing at night in order to make the roads brighter. Now, I'm not saying that it's not a problem for drivers, but I do sort of think that, this possibly could be part of the whole culture of people liking to have something to complain about. And they kind of need to learn, and I think this really should be part of the driving test. You need to learn how to drive at night and not to look directly into the headlights that are coming towards you.
But the RSC survey also shows, Amanda, that it suggests that there's been at least 200 road accidents which could be directly attributed to people being dazzled by the light. So that can't be good.
No, exactly. And I mean, I'm not belittling the accidents, and I'm certainly not belittling the people who have problems, particularly things like cataracts, which can really be a problem for nighttime driving. And it is a really serious problem when it comes to safety, admittedly. But again, I just feel that, bright headlights actually essentially make the road safer. We've got far more people travelling on the roads these days than we've ever had at any point in history. And so by virtue of the fact, we are going to see these numbers rising because, of course, there are going to be more people who are going to be dazzled by the headlights.
The People's Channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Well, let's start with that breaking news, should we, at 8:45. The Hollywood legend Gene Hackman has been found dead at his home, along with his wife, Betsy, and their dog, all found dead in Santa Fe. Should we talk to our showbiz reporter, Alex Davis, who joins us now. I mean, it's shocking news, Alex. What do we know?
At the moment, very little. It's a very, very sad story. Obviously, Gene Hackman died at 95. His wife, Betsy, as you said, she was 93. The local police have reported to local media that there's been no examples of foul play or anything like that. It's obviously very sad because the dog has died as well. And at the moment, details are just so scarce. We know that Gene Hackman left life in LA in 2004 for a quieter life in New Mexico. He wanted to step away from the spotlight, from all of the rigmarole that comes with Hollywood. So he's been out of the spotlight for about just over 2 decades, and there's no real information coming out about how this happened or why this happened.
Such a loss, Alex, because such a legendary actor, winning so many awards in his time.
Yeah, well, he won two Oscars in his time. He was nominated for several others. He won several Golden Globes, several BAFTAs. People will know him best from Mississippi Burning, The French Connection. He just had such an impressive CV, and already tributes from some of the world's biggest Hollywood names, most legendary actors, are already flooding in. But at the moment, I think everybody's just sort of desperate for answers, to be honest with you, because it's such a mystery how, obviously, they were at advanced ages, but for both his wife, Betsy, and him, and the dog to all have been found dead at their home in Santa Fe, it raises a lot of question marks.
Yeah, it certainly does. OK, Alex, I know you keep us up to date for now. Thank you. Norman Baker and Alex Armstrong are here with us in the studio. And I know, in a sense, you're almost a bit young for Gene Hackman. But there are still... it's a name. You often get with these legendary people, even when they're a bit out of your sphere from your time, it's still a name that you recognise.
Absolutely. As soon as I saw this news, I went, my goodness, Gene Hackman. I mean, it is a legendary name in Hollywood. I mean, of course, I love the superhero movies. So Superman, he was Lex Luthor, famously through, I think, is it 3 Superman movies, maybe more? What a legend. An incredible life as well, and I think it's really easy. Of course, I don't want to speculate into circumstances, but what a life he's had. 95, incredible success in Hollywood, which is hard enough. Let alone he's carried his career all the way through to the early 2000s. Bonnie and Clyde, of course, people won't forget movies like that. The guy's a legend. He's done what an incredible life, and I hope, whilst these circumstances are sad, people can reflect on the incredible contribution he's made to acting, and I'm sure that there will be many tributes pouring out to him across the field today. Yeah, I'm sure there will. It's such sad news, but it's a case of finding out what's gone on, Norman, in all of this, which is... someone messaged and said, could it be carbon monoxide? But but pure speculation. Well, the fact that he and his wife, he's 95, she's 63, and the dog has passed away as well. I mean, you do wonder what's gone on.
Well, of course you wonder what's gone on, but we don't know, and it's probably not very diplomatic to speculate until we got some more facts. What I would say is that if someone lasts till 95 and had a good life, then a lot of people don't last that long, don't have a good life. So, that's a plus in a way. Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm just reading comments that he made about being an actor. When he befriended a young Dustin Hoffman, he said, I was trained to be an actor, not a star. I was trained to play roles, not to deal with fame and agents and lawyers and the press. And he spoke at the time saying it cost him a lot emotionally to watch himself on screen. I think of myself and I think that I'm quite young, and then I look at the old man with the baggy chins and the tired eyes and the receding hairline and all of that. And he did pursue that quieter life, as Alex Davis was just explaining. He moved to New Mexico, wanted that quieter life after 2004, after that hugely successful career. And that's what he achieved with his wife.
I think there's something so beautiful about that, isn't there? I mean, the fact that he said, I was an actor, not a star, that's a really old school way of thinking. Everything now is you've got to have their personal lives, you've got to know what they're doing every day. And I think there's something really admirable about that, and something that people really love. Particularly, I think it's very British, so to speak, actually. Very British way of looking at life, which is, you're here to work, and he obviously loved what he did, otherwise he wouldn't have done it for so long. But then obviously managed to enjoy at least a good chunk of his life outside of the
the celebrity gaze as well.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It's described by some people as a bit of a recluse, which he probably isn't, or
No,
wasn't.
just a normal.
Well, I mean,
just wanting to live a normal life.
Well, indeed, if you get to that age, I expect most people are recluses, aren't they? Because they want to just, settle down and enjoy what's left of their time.
A fascinating man as well. He's born in California in 1930. He enlisted in the army after lying about his age at the age of 16. He served for 4.5 years in the military.
Wow.
Before he decided to pursue acting. And what an incredible acting career that went on to be.
Yeah, so many classics, actually.
Yeah, huge.
And it's interesting that, I mean, we've got a clip of him there with Morgan Freeman, but I mean, directed, as we said earlier on, by Clint Eastwood in some, and the people he starred with and worked with. I mean, this will be there'll be a real outpouring from Hollywood royalty about this.
Yeah, you just saw there, I mean, the clips he was with, people like Morgan Freeman, Dustin Hoffman. These are big names in Hollywood still to this day. I mean, these people are still acting in many cases. And so, he is Hollywood royalty. And even at that age of 95, to have seen so much of the world and poured his acting into that, I would have thought his experiences would have accompanied him throughout his work. I think this is, you're seeing these such incredible actors. It's always a shock, isn't it? It's always a shock. You don't expect them to die. I think you expect celebrities, they are like they are in the movies, they live on. But I guess maybe that is the beauty of working in cinema. Your work will live on forever.
Yeah, it is that. It's a very strange reality that we've come to have to face over the last 100 years, isn't it, really, Norman? That we almost become surprised that people grow old because we're used to seeing them in the same way.
Well, indeed, and one of the stories I picked up, actually, from the press paper is about Paul McCartney, who's writing a book on his time with Wings. And actually, I saw Paul McCartney just before Christmas at the O2. What a fantastic performer he was, I have to say. And what a nice man. You were talking about Gene being a nice guy. Paul McCartney's a lovely guy. I've met him a couple of times, and he's just so generous and still great performer, vocally and everything else. So
Yeah, a legend. We just had a tribute in from Darragh O'Brien, the Irish comedian, who said, Gene Hackman, the finest screen actor ever, I think.
Wow.
Not a single duff performance in a long career. The best delivery ever of a single word when he says cigars in Young Frankenstein.
Yeah, Young Frankenstein, this is comedic, I think, was it some sort of comedy, I think it was at the time, as well. It's so adaptable. I mean, those kind of actors, it reminds me of those old school British actors that come from theatre almost. It's that kind of calibre where they go from theatre onto the big screen, but they have such a way of speaking the lines, such a way of delivering it on their faces that you're just so engrossed in watching them. You're like, this is the Ian McKellen generation, Those kind of actors just absolutely fantastic, once in a lifetime.
It's a very clever stuff when they actually don't almost have to utter a word to deliver a great performance. That is the sad news that we've had this morning, that Gene Hackman, legendary actor, has been found dead at his home at the age of 95, alongside his wife Betsy and the family dog as well. So questions to be answered. Police are investigating. We'll bring you more as we have it.
Here's the weather.
A chilly start will give way to a lovely, warm afternoon. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. A fine and settled day ahead. Lots of dry weather, lots of sunny spells, though we can't rule out a few occasional coastal showers, particularly around North Sea coasts. So East Anglia, for example, may see a slightly cloudier day on offer. Some showers moving through here too, and a little bit breezy at times. And across the northwest, can't rule out a few showers moving through here as well. The odd one may be a little bit heavy with some hail and thunder, but for the majority of the country, a dry day on offer, bright and even some sunshine poking through at times too, and highs of around 10, possibly 11 Celsius across the south, so feeling pleasant where you do catch the sunnier spells. As we head through into the evening across Scotland, still a few showers moving through here. Still, once again, could be a little bit heavy, perhaps even bringing the odd sprinkling of snow across the Scottish Highlands. A few showers just clipping coasts of Northern Ireland too, but elsewhere, northern parts of England should see a dry end to the day, and fairly similar across Wales, central parts of England and parts of the south. A dry end to the day, perhaps still some cloud lingering across East Anglia with the odd shower moving through here too. But then through into the the overnight period with high pressure building, so that's going to ease away any showers. That's away from the northwest, though, where they might continue for a time. But under clear skies, that means temperatures are soon going to dip away, and it's likely that we'll actually see quite a widespread frost by Friday morning, the last day of meteorological winter, and even towns and cities just about above freezing, but many rural spots likely to see quite a chilly start to the day with that patchy frost, possibly even some fog patches to start the day too. Things will eventually warm up and any fog will clear, and once again another dry day on offer, much brighter across parts of the southeast where we'll see a little bit of the cloud today. Lots of dry weather, lots of sunshine. That sunshine turning hazier though across the northwest as we see an ex-frontal system moving through. Once again highs of around 10 to 11 Celsius, so once again feeling pleasant in the sunshine.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
On the M8 in Renfrewshire, there's a lane closed eastbound between junctions 27 and 26 from Paisley to Hillington, with queues back beyond junction 29 at St James. The M65 in Lancashire's closed westbound from junction 14 at the Boundary Mill roundabout to 10 at Burnley after an accident yesterday evening, and long delays as you divert. On the M60 in Greater Manchester, there's a lane closed anti-clockwise after an accident between junctions 13 and 12 from Worsley to the Eccles interchange, with queues from junction 19 of the M62. At Hayward, on the M4 in Cardiff, there's a lane closed westbound after an accident on the exit at junction 32 at the Corriton interchange, causing queues. On the M4 in Berkshire, 2 lanes are closed westbound for repairs after a vehicle caught fire between junctions 13 and 14 from Newbury to Hungerford. And on the M27 in Hampshire, there's a lane closed eastbound just after junction 11 at Fareham, causing queues. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Don't miss your chance to be one of 2 big winners in our latest Great British giveaway, as we have 2 prize bundles that have to be won. There's 2 lots of a totally tax-free £10,000 in cash. You'll also receive a brand new iPhone 16, along with £500 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite store. Hurry, lines close on the 7th of March. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. The breaking news in the last few minutes, and Hollywood actor, Hollywood legend Gene Hackman is found dead in his home in Santa Fe alongside his wife, Betsy.
Well, police in Santa Fe say there are no signs of foul play and have not confirmed a cause of death.
Well, the 2-time Oscar winner was the star of some of the most iconic films of the last century.
Elsewhere, Sir Keir Starmer arrives in Washington for crunch talks with his US counterpart, Donald Trump. On the agenda, impending tariffs, a Western alliance in jeopardy, and Vladimir Putin.
Well, the Foreign Secretary, David Lammy, claims the Chagos deal is off, but only if President Trump rejects it. Here's what Conservative heavyweight Robert Jenrick told us last night.
If our own leaders are so weak and feckless that they want to do this, then yes, I would love to have, President Trump to step in and end this farce. But it shouldn't have to come to that, should it? No.
Residents in Wethersfield are up in arms as the village is set to be outnumbered by asylum seekers. Charlie Peters is there for us.
Andrew and Tristan Tate have reportedly left Romania for the United States, having previously had travel restrictions posed on them whilst they were under house arrest.
A royal away day. Prince William and Princess Catherine try their hand at making Welsh cakes during a visit to the country in honour of St David's Day on Saturday.
Gary Lineker hits out at the BBC after it removed a documentary deemed to be pro-Hamas.
Hello there, good morning. A fine, dry and settled day ahead. Plenty of sunshine, though a few showers in places. To find out where, stay tuned and I'll be here with all the details.
It's just gone 9 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
I'm Ellie Costello and this is GB News Breakfast. And we start with that breaking news that we've just received in the past few minutes. The two-time Oscar-winning Hollywood actor, Hollywood legend Gene Hackman has been found dead in his home alongside his wife, Betsy. Alex Davies, our showbiz reporter, joins us live now. Alex, what do we understand has happened?
At the moment, all we know is that, like you say, Gene Hackman, his wife and the dog have been found dead. That, like, the official statement from the Santa Fe County Sheriff just confirms that, says that they were found dead on Wednesday afternoon at their residence on the Sunset Trail. This is an active investigation, but at this time, we do not believe foul play was a factor. Obviously, at his advanced age of 95, it's not unheard of for somebody to die that old, but obviously, when his wife and his dog are involved as well, everybody is just so desperate for answers already.
Yeah, there are a lot of questions around this, but of course what we have to focus on is this man's legacy, which is phenomenal.
Well, he's one of the most decorated actors of this generation, to be honest, and it's quite ironic the amount of press that this will garner, because he was a man who very much didn't conform to Hollywood glitz and glamour. For the past 20-odd years, he's been very much enjoying life out of the spotlight. He was famously quoted as saying that he was trained to be an actor, but not the star, wasn't trained for the stardom that came with it. He wanted just a quiet life, wanted to do his job, and, all of this attention that's going to go around his death is sort of ironic in the way that I'm sure he would have hated it. But, his CV boasts some incredible roles. He played Lex Luthor in the Superman in the 70s and 80s. He won Oscars for his roles in Unforgiven and The French Connection. He was nominated for so many more. And it's just a really, really sad loss and a really sad day in Hollywood, as you can tell by already so many of the tributes that are flooded in.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just reading some of these tributes here, saying, this from Pat, one of my favourite actors ever. Mississippi Burning and The French Connection are absolute masterpieces.
Timeless. And I mean, you mentioned earlier about Dara O'Brien's just one famous faces who has spoken out, and he described him as the finest screen actor ever. So it's just a really, really sad loss for all of Hollywood and the film industry, and we've obviously got the Oscars coming up this weekend, and I'd like to think that somebody of that legacy will be given quite a bit of a dedication.
Absolutely.
It's shocking, isn't it? Just the fact that he was 95, frankly, because he is someone who disappeared from the public spotlight 20 years ago, decided he wanted to live just a private, quiet life with his wife. That in itself is quite unusual in the Hollywood world.
Incredibly so, yeah. I mean, most people who pursue a career in acting now are fully aware of the glitz and glam that come with it, the lucrative pay packet that comes with it. But it didn't seem to matter to Gene Hackman. As he approached his later years, all he wanted was a quiet life in New Mexico with his family. I think that's one of the saddest things about this, is that they were doing just that. He wasn't confined by the restrictions of agents and press and the media. He did what he wanted. I think one thing that has really piqued a lot of people's attention with this is obviously the dog as well, because people are just wondering, that's such a mystery. It's such a mystery. like you said earlier, there's been rumours of could it have been something to do with, you know, carbon monoxide poisoning or something like that. But at the moment, we just do not know.
Just don't know, no. But it's looking at those possibilities for him to die alongside his wife and the family dog. It's a dreadful shock for he's got 3 children from his previous marriage. I can't imagine what they're going through.
Yeah, it must just be... it's all obviously just such a horrible ordeal whenever anything like this happens. And he was with Betsy since they were married in 1991, but obviously they were together before that as well. So they were together for, you know, over 3 decades, probably coming up to 4. And we just have no idea why this has happened so sadly and so tragically.
But looking at the legacy is so important, isn't it, here? Because this is a man that lived his life to the fullest. He served in the US military, didn't he?
Lied to get involved,
signed up early, served 4 years there. I mean, that's testament to his bravery and his courage.
Yeah.
And then went on to have such a successful acting career. And then I guess you'd say, Alex, he took back control.
Well, exactly.
He wanted his privacy, he wanted his family life, and he lived his life to the fullest.
As I said, I mean, the full quote that he said was, "I was trained to be an actor, not a star. I was trained to play roles, not to deal with fame and agents and lawyers and the press. It really cost me a lot emotionally to watch myself on screen. I think of myself and feel like I'm young, and then I see this old man with baggy chins and a receding hairline." You know, he was very sort of self-deprecating, but he knew he did what he wanted. Like you say, he wasn't going to be shackled by the constraints of fame.
I'm always very impressed with actors like Gene Hackman who can play an incredibly sinister, dark role by almost saying very little, by not losing their temper within that role. And it is literally all done with their positioning and their features and their almost quiet voice. I mean, those sort of roles for him were just superb.
Well, it also is a testament to his ability. You know, not everybody gets to play a big role like a Superman villain. You know, like he was Lex Luthor spanning over 2 decades. He was clearly somebody who honed his craft from a young age. Then, like I said, that's all he trained to do. And the fact that so many people are calling him one of the finest on-screen actors ever is testament to that.
I've just read he's played over 100 roles in his time. I mean, it's just an incredible feat for an actor.
And he retired in 2004. So for the last 20 years, he's decided to take a step back. But even before that, you know, he threw himself straight into the industry, played some truly iconic roles, and performed them well, which, I mean, this wasn't just a run-of-the-mill actor. This was an Oscar winner. This was a Golden Globe winner. This was a man who became known worldwide for his talents. And like I say, I think it's just so commendable that despite all that, he was never bowed down to the beast that is Hollywood or fame, really.
Celebrity, yeah. Well, look, we're going to reflect more on Gene Hackman shortly. For now, Alex, thanks very much indeed. We need to look at politics because there's an awful lot going on today. Primarily, the Prime Minister's in Washington to meet Donald Trump. Who's going to be the most nervous about that, I wonder? Well, I can have a guess. Let's head to Westminster, talk to the Secretary of State for Science, Technology and Innovation, Peter Kyle. Lovely to see you this morning, Minister. I mean, this is going to be a historic meeting, a crucial meeting for the Prime Minister, isn't it?
Good morning, it's great to be with you again as well. Yeah, it is going to be a historic moment. It's a really important moment in our country's development, in our relationship with America. We've got Ukraine, which is a huge issue, which I know that the Prime Minister is very keen to talk about, but also those foundational issues about, you know, the economy. When you look at the economy going forward, it's going to be fundamentally different where the wealth and the job creation is going to come from than in the past. And that's perfectly placed for a relationship between the United States and the United Kingdom, because it will be things like medical technology, AI, space. You know, these are the sorts of industries of the future that are going to be creating the real wealth. Now, we have huge scientific experience here and a culture of scientific endeavour. We've got the universities, the skills, we've got the investment landscape. So I think if Britain and America can link together on these sorts of things, then it'll be great for both countries. And we have 2 leaders who are both putting their national interest first, coming together to find common ground. So yes, it's a really important moment, but I know that the Prime Minister is really fired up for it.
There's going to be points of conflict, though, aren't there? One of those being the Chagos Island deal. And the Foreign Secretary, David Lammy, made a remark yesterday that the deal would be scrapped if Donald Trump doesn't want it. I mean, that's a remarkable revelation, isn't it, from the Foreign Secretary, essentially saying that a decision that's regarding British interests in the world lays in the hand of the US president.
Not a remarkable statement at all, actually, because the Chagos Islands, you know, is a military base used by both Britain and America, and we have very, very highly integrated defence and intelligence services. It's a key part of the special relationship. So it is perfectly obvious that actually the views and the stance taken by the US, because we've been consulting them on this issue all the way through, and of course the previous administration endorsed the deal. We haven't seen the deal publicly yet. It's not been presented to Parliament, so there's lots of stages that this needs to go through, but squaring it off with our key ally that we share that military base with, of course, is the first step.
Yeah, so it's basically dead in the water, isn't it? Because we already know Trump doesn't like it, we know his key advisors and Rubio doesn't like it, so it's just not going to happen then, is it?
The really important thing is what comes out of these discussions, not the rhetoric that goes into them. We've seen that time and time again with all sets of discussions and negotiations, whether it's bilateral between two leaders, whether it's big peace negotiations such as in Northern Ireland, or whether it's the Brexit negotiations. Think of all of the different sides coming together with different views, but the key thing is what comes out of these discussions. That's why the discussions that are happening later on today are going to be so important, but we need to see what comes out the other side.
Is the Chagos Island deal included in the defence budget boost that was announced this week?
The defence budget this week is focused on increasing by 13 billion the spending that we have on our European defence. The Chagos deal is not yet published. It is still being discussed within our allies. When that deal is published, it will be fully scrutinised by Parliament and yourselves, and we can come back and discuss all of those things then.
Well, can we just talk about the figure? Because you said 13 billion. The Defence Secretary indicating it works out at 6 billion. What is it?
No, it's 13 billion. We are increasing our funding over the next 3 years. The Prime Minister mentioned this 3 times in the House of Commons to Kemi Badenoch, but the increase will be from 13 billion in the coming years.
Okay, you talked about coming together with President Trump on different issues, and you say it's important what comes out the other side. But there's a big difference between saying, you know, we support Ukraine, we're going to continue to support Ukraine, to someone who says Zelensky is a dictator and we're not going to do anything with him or for him unless we get our hands on some of his key minerals. I mean, that's a heck of a divide.
Well, firstly, let's just reiterate that we have a Prime Minister that not only respects, but actually stands shoulder to shoulder with President Zelensky, that has spoken to him numerous times. But when I mentioned the difference between rhetoric and actual actions, with all of the things that we've heard that have been said about President Zelensky, he is actually going there to meet Donald Trump later this week himself. And a lot of the rhetoric that was coming out of certain places in recent weeks were that meeting would never happen. So, you know, there is a lot of words. There always is at important moments in global politics and moments like this in global terms. But what is absolutely crucial is what that agreement actually looks like. It is really good that this week we've had President Macron, we have the Prime Minister of Great Britain and President Zelensky coming together with Donald Trump, the new President of the United States. These are the kinds of discussions that are very functional. At the heart of all of these words and rhetoric from lots of different quarters, we have a very functional process that's unfolding, and I think we should just stay focused on that.
Can I ask you about tariffs? Because yesterday Donald Trump threatened to slap 25% tariffs on the EU. He also said that the bloc had been formed to screw the United States, which he said it's successfully done so far. Do you think we will avoid tariffs here in the UK? And do you see a US-UK trade deal to be a realistic goal under this Trump presidency?
I think it's really realistic that we find common ground, and I think that process is going to start today when it comes to economic cooperation and exploiting the opportunities we have when certain companies, businesses and partnerships are formed between our two nations. We also are in a really interesting position when it comes to trade with the United States because we have a balanced trade relationship with the United States. So it's not in the same situation that the President is very concerned about the trade deficit that they have with other territories. So there's lots of things actually about Britain that puts us in a good stead when it comes to building on that trading relationship and finding areas where we can really work together cooperatively that will deliver benefits for both territories. Because as I said, you have a Prime Minister that's going in there making sure he's standing up for Britain's national interest. And we have a leader in America that's doing the same for his country. But there are areas where when we work together, it delivers for both territories. I know that the Prime Minister is keen to really find those areas and exploit those opportunities. I'm pretty sure Donald Trump will be doing the same.
Yeah, well, I mean, with that in mind, it's a more lucrative market for us to plunder, isn't it? Don't we need to focus on the United States and just keep the EU as trading partners? Well, they're still there, they're still going to be important, but not as important as the States.
There are many American companies that are domiciled here in the UK, that work here in the UK, that know that we have a highly skilled workforce. We have great universities. We have the English language. We are an open trading nation. Lots of reasons why America is interested in Britain and always has done. These fundamentals haven't changed. In fact, these are the fundamentals that we are renewing for the 2020s and for the age that we're living in facing forward. And America is doing the same thing with its economy. We want to find ways where we can work together. Now, this isn't just about us going over there with a one-way set of offers that we want access to. We are going there with things where we know we have scientific excellence, which is genuinely pioneering, which is above the capabilities of sometimes any other country in the world. If we look at quantum, for example, if we look at AI, we have real talent in these areas. Now, if we can get this right, it means that we in Britain and America can not just win the race, but stay ahead in the race. And in the world that we're in today, the countries that are ahead in this particular race will have stronger national security, stronger defence, but we will have the wealth and job creation that will outpace other countries. And my goodness, do we need these things in Britain right now after the 14 years we had under the previous lot?
Well, we certainly do. There's no doubt about that. Minister, good to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now it's time for the Great British Giveaway. Have a go.
Don't miss your chance to be one of 2 big winners in our latest Great British Giveaway, as we have 2 prize bundles that have to be won. There's 2 lots of a totally tax-free £10,000 in cash. You'll also receive a brand new iPhone 16, along with £500 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite store. Hurry, lines close on the 7th of March. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Now, Egypt has discovered, well, I think it was a British and Egyptian team, actually, finding the historic discovery, the long-lost tomb of King Thutmose II, the last of the lost tombs of the kings of ancient Egypt's 18th dynasty.
Yes, and it's the first royal Egyptian tomb to be discovered since King Tutankhamun's final resting place was found in 1922.
A very exciting discovery, and here to tell us all about it is the historian and author Martin Whittock. Martin, the first royal tomb since Tutankhamun.
Indeed, and identified as King Thutmose II. Other pronunciations are also available. And as you say, it's the last of the lost tombs of Egypt's 18th dynasty. They ruled between about 1550 BC and 1292 BC. It had been known before this tomb since 2022 as Tomb C4, as its occupant was then unknown. But what's happened now is parts of alabaster vessels have been found which have inscriptions bearing the name of Pharaoh Thutmose II and identifying him as the deceased king, along, interestingly, with the name of his wife, Hatshepsut. Now, she's an interesting woman because after he died, she ruled as pharaoh in her own right, one of only 2 women to do so in ancient Egyptian history. Now, the mummy of King Thutmose II was actually discovered during the 19th century at a nearby archaeological site known as Deir el-Bahari Kashet, and it's thought it was moved there after it had been looted by tomb raiders centuries ago. So the tomb is not going to give us the kind of treasures that we associate with Tutankhamun, I'm afraid, but it shows us the architecture of these royal tombs.
GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Well, the breaking news this morning is the news that Gene Hackman, Hollywood legend, has been found dead at his home alongside his wife and the family dog. We don't know what's going on. It's a strange situation, but a man with what an incredible legacy behind him. Let's talk to the actor Peter Egan, who joins us now. Peter, I mean, you were straight on X this morning posting your tribute. I mean, this is an incredible actor.
Amazing, absolutely brilliant. I mean, a sensational actor, a Hollywood legend. I first saw him in Bonnie and Clyde in the late 60s when he played Warren Beatty's brother. It was a kind of supporting role, but he kind of burned his way through the screen. He was absolutely remarkable, a unique personality, and he always brought an amazing dimension to his work of both naturalness and humanity. I thought he was one of the best American actors ever, really. Like, he was a bit like Spencer Tracy. He was just remarkable, common man with a great touch.
Is that partly down to his this attitude he said at the beginning of his career? You know, he was an actor but not a celebrity.
I think that probably had a lot to do with it. And also, he kind of wasn't your typical Hollywood star, as it were. I think both he and Dustin Hoffman were voted in the early 60s at the Pasadena Playhouse, the 2 actors the less likely to succeed. And they both went on to kind of break the barrier. He just had, I think, a wonderful talent and a wonderful ability to draw you into the heart of each character he played. Like in Mississippi Burning, which I think is one of his greatest performances. It's a wonderful film. And his journey through that film is quite remarkable. When you begin with, he's a very bullish, aggressive, potentially violent man. And during his journey, he has those wonderful scenes with the woman whose name I can't remember at the moment, married to one of the policemen in that U.S. Marshals. The way he deals with those kind of almost love scenes in such a gentle and dimensioned way, in such contrast to everything else. I just thought it was compelling.
Yeah, Peter, sadly we're out of time, but it's really good to see you. Thanks for your insight this morning.
Thank you. That's it from us today. Andrew Pearce and Bev Turner are up at 9:30. Here's the weather.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. A fine and settled day ahead. Lots of dry weather, lots of sunny spells, though we can't rule out a few occasional coastal showers, particularly around North Sea coasts. So East Anglia, for example, may see a slightly cloudier day on offer. Some showers moving through here too, and a little bit breezy at times. And across the northwest, can't rule out a few showers moving through here as well. The odd one may be a little bit heavy with some hail and thunder, but for the majority of the country, a dry day on offer, bright and even some sunshine poking through at times too, and highs of around 10, possibly 11 Celsius across the south, so feeling pleasant where you do catch the sunnier spells. As we head through into the evening across Scotland, still a few showers moving through here. Still, once again, could be a little bit heavy, perhaps even bringing the odd sprinkling of snow across the Scottish Highlands. A few showers just clipping coasts of Northern Ireland too, but elsewhere, northern parts of England should see a dry end to the day, and fairly similar across Wales, central parts of England and parts of the south. A dry end to the day, perhaps still some cloud lingering across East Anglia with the odd shower moving through here too. But then through into the overnight period with high pressure building, so that's going to ease away any showers. That's away from the northwest though, where they might continue for a time. But under clear skies, that means temperatures are soon going to dip away, and it's likely that we'll actually see quite a widespread frost by Friday morning, the last day of meteorological winter, and even towns and cities just about above freezing, but many rural spots likely to see quite a chilly start to the day with that patchy frost, possibly even some fog patches to start the day too. Things will eventually warm up and any fog will clear, and once again another dry day on offer, much brighter across parts of the southeast where we'll see a little bit of the cloud today. Lots of dry weather, lots of sunshine. That sunshine turning hazier though across the northwest as we see next frontal system moving through. Once again highs of around 10 to 11 Celsius, so once again feeling pleasant in the sunshine.
Expect a warm front moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. The M65 in Lancashire is closed westbound from junction 14 at the Boundary Mill roundabout to 10 at Burnley after an accident yesterday evening. There are long delays as you divert. On the M60 in Greater Manchester, the inside lane's closed anti-clockwise after an accident between junctions 13 and 12 from Worsley to the Eccles interchange. There are long delays back on the M62 from junction 19 at Haywood, with a breakdown in the queue at junction 14. On the M6 in Cheshire, 2 lanes are closed southbound where a vehicle caught fire between junctions 18 and 17 from Middlewich to Sandbach, causing long delays. The M1 in Leicestershire's blocked southbound by an accident at junction 21 at Leicester, causing queues. And on the M4 in Berkshire, 2 out of 3 lanes are closed westbound for emergency repairs after a vehicle caught fire between junctions 13 and 14 from Newbury to Hungerford, causing roughly 3 miles of queues.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel.